Welcome along this fantastic Friday here in Racing Post Towers for RP Live. Racing Post Live, myself, Dave Orton, back with you. A double header coming your way from Epsom. It's a classic weekend. 5 beauties we will be covering for you today, culminating in the Epsom Oaks at 4:30. The fillies coming out to shine. Exciting day, isn't it? Very much so. Do get involved. Viewer interaction absolutely makes this show. You can do so by YouTube if you're watching on that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, Facebook Live, and of course anything on Twitter is hashtag RP Live. Okay, great stuff. Let's welcome along to the party. James Millman back on the panel. I've been trying to work out what my nickname for you is going to be, James.
I'm sure you'll find one eventually.
It's definitely coming to me. I have to say, slowly but surely, it's going to come to me.
At least going to get my number of winners right this time.
If you saw James's debut, which actually happened to be on trials weekends, it's great to have James back in for the biggie. I said that you'd had a certain amount of winners to watch. He's a little bit deadpan, James, you might know out there if you watch a lot of racing, but he was actually ghastly mortified when I was about 50 short, wasn't I?
Mortified was the word, because like I said, it wasn't a great total to start off with and you chopped it in half. But good to be back. And we saw the trials weekend at Lingfield, which I thought third round might have a bit of an each way squeak in the derby.
In the biggie?
Tomorrow. The Oaks trial perhaps not quite so significant, but it was good to see Lingfield, similar track and similar positions. If you get too far behind too early, you're going to be in trouble around Epsom.
Yes, of course, James, top professional jockey, of course, on the flat. As we've just said, we got your number of winners at 100 and, drum roll?
37.
137. He knows that more than anyone else. If anyone can verify that out there, we'd like to know. But things have been going quite well. Assistant to your dad, Rod, of course, down in Devon. Had 8 winners in May.
Yeah, real good May.
Cool Cat, the highlight, maybe?
Cool Cat, definitely. Patient Dream runs in the 2 o'clock first race tomorrow for Race Beckett, and we just talked about that in the office. You're quite strong in that, and that Epsom race he ran and worked out well with Cool Cat, one of the many winners coming out of it. Yeah,
James is not short of an opinion, let me tell you, and he's ridden around Epsom a couple of times. So get your questions in with James. Get your questions in for Tom Collins, is back in the studio on this fantastic Friday. How's the radar, TC?
Yeah, going well at the moment. Very surprised it's raining. Wasn't a nice walk into the studio, was it? And just looking at the Epsom pictures right now, it looks sodden.
Unreal, isn't it? Absolutely.
I played golf yesterday. Sunny all the way there on the drive there. Got to the first tee, rained.
Did it?
Couldn't believe it.
Well, there you are. Absolutely. Let's hope it doesn't run your parade. You're going to be doing the trading for Betfair today. Can't wait for that. Let's see what Barry Orr will be trading on. Barry, great to have you back on.
Good afternoon, lads. How are we all?
We're very well, Barry. You'll be back for the derby tomorrow, of course. Since this rain has arrived, I'm only assuming that McSweeney for Jim Bolger must be coming in, surely. Because everyone say he must have rain. Well, it has arrived.
Oh, he was 7-1 earlier on this morning. He's out to 15-2 now.
Wow.
It's a pretty stagnant market. Bolshoi Ballet strong at the head of the market at 5-4. Remains to be seen how much rain has actually got in, how much the rain has got into the ground, and then how much drying there is between now and tomorrow. So, yeah, I wouldn't be no knee-jerk reactions to going conditions off the back of the rain earlier on this morning and into early afternoon ahead of tomorrow's derby.
It's going to be fascinating to see, guys, isn't it? And as Barry points out there, maybe just people waiting to see what it's like. Up to 20 mil. Andrew Cooper, Clark of the course, one of the best in the business, Andrew, as we know, at Epsom, put on before this came. There was chat yesterday, wasn't there, James, about there's a cycle of rain coming in around the southeast. Will Epsom miss it? It hasn't, like everywhere else in the southeast, if you're watching at the moment. We haven't had our first race yet, but how are you expecting it to arrive? If you were Jock going out, because we can see them coming off the stands rail, over to the stands rail?
Especially on day one, because the rails are in a fair bit to save a bit of ground for tomorrow's meeting.
Yep.
And it means it's not actually that far to come across, and it slants downwards, so it's a huge advantage to get right on that stands rail. And that's when Cracksman nearly gave away the Coronation Cup, when Sylvester nearly sneaked up.
It was.
Salatine.
Very good, James.
But that's a big manoeuvre. You want to be getting to that rail first, and you don't want to let anyone else have it. So I'm not sure. First race, the Woodcote in particular, 2-year-olds, it's quite hard to go across. We might not learn a great deal then, but the jockeys will come back, have an opinion, and that might be something to look for the rest of the day. Yeah,
that's what you get here on the show. If you're new to it, it's real-time analysis and reaction. That's what we want. It's our second screen experience is how we're billing it to terrestrial TV races. And Barry, you're playing all day in each race. We've got 5 along the way for charity, basically. At the end of May, for Bob Champion's Cancer Trust, ended rather well, thanks to your exploits last Saturday. We're switching tack this month. We had Charlie Post in, didn't we? And Racing Welfare. Basically, in August, Charlie's doing something called the Great Racing Welfare Cycle. I think that's right. I think I've got that right. So from the 17th of August, it starts at Carlisle racetrack, goes all the way to Newton Abbot, I think, on the 21st. 100 miles a day they're doing. Anyone can apply for this, by the way, to have what they're calling the bucket list experience. Not sure about that. Not sure if that'd be on my bucket list. I've got to be with you. You wouldn't want to see me do that, would you? I wouldn't make it to the end. I do actually own a bike, James, believe it or not. But Barry, that will be the choice. We're going to do it all the way. It's a big month, June, for the charity, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. There's plenty of shows to get stuck into as well. Obviously, we have 5 days of the Royal Ascot meeting as well in there. So fingers crossed we can raise a few quid for racing welfare, as we have done in the previous 3 months. We've shown a profit every month now. And yeah, like you say, 500 last month for Bob Champion's Cancer Research, which was greatly received. Wrote a check for that on Monday, and they wished Racing Post Live and everybody there all the best for their donation.
Happy days. Listen, that's what it's all about. So you don't have to play in every race. Safe gambling is our MO here on the show. But Barry will be showcasing the functionality of exactly how the exchange works. Let's face it, it's the real market. So shall we get the first race up on screen? As if by magic, the boys in the gallery make it appear. Don't forget to get your comments in. You'll be seeing the Spotlight verdict. There you go. I never get this right. Anyway, Spotlight verdict's down there. You can see free content here on Racing Post Live. That's what you get. Like and subscribe. Let us know you're out there. We will give you a shout. We've got plenty of time in between the races as well. And it is the Woodcote, isn't it, Barry? And it's fair to say that this has been something of a stagnant market as well, hasn't it? I mean, there's no hot pot in this. Who would have thought that a horse like Pinatubo could rock up and win it a couple of years ago? Have we got another star in this year's renewal?
Yeah, I doubt it. The market doesn't suggest we have. It's currently 3-1 the field. Each of two, Darrerin and Flaming Rib. Money Horse has been one of Bowie's, Oscula. Obviously, his 2-year-olds are in flying form, and really fast start to the season for him. And he's become synonymous with speedy 2-year-olds. So no surprise to see money for that. He's a horse that likes to get out front. But there's a couple of plays here from exchange point of view. Like you said earlier, Dave, this is all about showing people the functionality of the Betfair Exchange. So there's a nice play that I have here. I'm going to back Darren. I'm going to have 25 quid on him. He won in Ripping on Good to Soft. He was a nose second to Jukebox after trading. Jenny, I think he traded 12-1 on that day in Newbury. He's by a real speedy Australian horse called Spill the Beans. I think the trip's going to be okay for him. I think the ground is going to be okay for him as well. His runs have been on good to soft ground. I think he's a really, really nice prospect, and he's drawn well. So we're going to have 25 quid in him. And I'm also going to have 25 quid on Zoltan Star, who has been a beaten favourite a couple of times, traded at 6-1 on in Chester, and the time before that, back in April in Windsor, traded at 2-1 on when had a Betfair SP at 2.72. So he has shown promise, and he's traded considerably lower than his Betfair SPs on his 2 runs. So going to have 25 quid on Darrerin, 25 quid on Zoltan Star, and then I'm going to look to lay Zoltan Star in running. So what we're going to do is we're going to select Zoltan Star to lay it, put in to lay it at 3.0, which is 2-1, and take 50 quid out of him. So if we get matched in running on Zoltan Star, we'll select keep bet there so the bet doesn't cancel once it goes in play. That's the keep bet function. So we're an in running bet placed there. And what we've got then is if we get matched on Zoltan Star, we'll win 125 quid if he wins. And if Darren wins, we'll win 100 quid. And anything else, we'll not have lost any money. So yeah, nice exchange play there. A lot of improving 2-year-olds here. Only one of them has ran more than twice. Anything could take a massive step forward. But I'm happy with that exchange play.
Okay, Barry Orr, there's his trades for the first then. The Woodcote, Fast and Furious over the 6 furlongs. 2 trades if you want to get involved. You know what to do. Plenty of time to react to that. We go down the panel as well if you're new to the show to see exactly what our experts think about it in the studio as well. A quick word on the ground before we do that, actually. It was officially described as good. Andrew Cooper, Clark of course, has spoken to our man on course and basically said, I want to run a race on it and update it after the first. They've had 8 mil, they reckon, so far today on the track. 8 mil so far. First rain since May the 24th at Epsom. So he thinks it's going to be fine. I guess he would say that, James, wouldn't he? But is that changing your tack for the first race already with your selection? Or?
Well, on the way up to the train, Lee Mott said actually got a quote from Andrew Cooper, and he said, look, 4 mil is what we're kind of expecting. I'd be very happy with 4 mil because they want a little bit of rain just for tomorrow. 8 mil, double the amount.
Doubled up.
That's a fair bit, especially as it's going to keep going, I think, as well. It's not stopped yet. So
Imagine if this is your first day back on track.
Not a fun one.
2022 or since the resumption. I don't know. And you're gone there in your finery like they do at Epsom, and it's absolutely brolly weather, isn't it?
Well, it was supposed to stop pretty early on this afternoon, so the fact it is still going in, it's got to be a bit of a concern. As for the 2-year-olds, you've got the 2 ahead in the market, have got soft ground form anyway, so it's not a particular concern. Oscula's probably the one that hasn't been proven on that kind of surface, but I thought Flaming Rib, son of Ribchester, showed tremendous speed. Bearing in mind the size, not going to be renowned for out-and-out 5 furlong performers and beating one of ours at Nottingham Amazonian Dream.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that he's actually a nicer horse, because we were disappointed to get beat on that occasion.
Yeah, you've run since, haven't you, Amazonian Dream?
Yeah,
Probably
we
an
got
excuse.
cut up at Salisbury. He only would have finished second. He ran to his 81 again. So it's still solid form, because he did beat us 3.5 lengths.
It was a good time at Nottingham. Is that the headline Millman tip?
For this race, definitely,
Yes.
Flaming Rib, because I think over 6 he's only going to get better over further.
Yeah, he's never run over the 6 TC, has he? But he's bred to be staying this Dascombe's 2-year-old with Will Buick on, which is an interesting booking. He's had one runner in the last 10 years, that placed. So where does TC like the look of in this race?
Well, if you're looking on RPRs, then you're going to be one of the 2 favourites, because Darien and Flaming Rib are clear standouts on their most recent starts when they achieved an RPR in the low 90s. But I'm going to be with Oscula. I just love George Bowie with these 2-year-olds. He's done so well. He's only in his 3rd season of training. Last year he trained 26 winners from 132 runners. This year, already 42 winners. He's flying, most of those with 2-year-olds as well. Oscula showed great improvement from first start to second. On a first start, I thought she was the best filly in the race. They went for home. Mark Crean went for home maybe a tad early at Kempton. He went for home at the Cutaway, which is, for a first-time out filly, it's a long way to go from there. And she just got picked up by 2 smart types. Last time out at Brighton, which showed that she handled a track with camber, she stayed on really nicely. So from a nice draw, I thought Oscula was the best play in the race, but it's wide open. I
don't need to add a lot to that, I've got to tell you. As you can see, the spotlight verdict goes with that. So that makes 3 of us. I'm in company with TC as well. It cost only 4,000 guineas, this. Really good buy. A Galileo Gold, a Guineas winner, the sire, it's his first season. She was one of 2 winners that he's had so far, both come with a bit of cut. And I like the way that it just kept finding a little bit more. And I think that Brighton form might work out as all right as well. OK, we've got some viewer interaction I'm hearing in my ear. Who's kicking off the show? Let's go to Andy Sim back on and says, "Hi guys, Oscar, my choice each way for a trainer with a 33% strike weight." I mean, mentioned about the targeting of George Bowie, he has really ripped it all up this year. I mean, I think it was ridiculous in May, wasn't he?
Well, he's 13 from 30 with his 2-year-olds so far, and it looked like a prep run going to Brighton for the Woodcote. And I think Nick Bradley, he's very keen to go for the big 2-year-old races all the time, and this was earmarked straight away after the Brighton success that he was going to be heading for the Woodcote. This filly, Oscula, George Bowie's only running the 1. He could have probably run a couple in the race. He's got a lot for ammo racing as well. Galileo Gold, Ebro River is his star, isn't it?
That's it.
Very wayward, but very, very talented.
For Hugo Palmer, who trained the sire, of course.
Runs in the Al Shakab colours, and 4 grams was a bit of a bargain, and Nick Bradley does do it time and time again. Yeah. My only slight worry, Mark Crean, he claimed 5, both starts so far. He's not claiming this race because it's worth too much money, and he is taking on the top jockeys riding at the top meetings, so he's going to have to be on his mettle. But I think her form is much better than Dusky Prince, the other Brighton winner, who didn't really win a particularly strong race for Archie Watson on debut.
I'll come back to Dusky Prince in just a sec, because there's an Archie Watson who trains that line as well. That's just interesting to me. OK, thank you, Andy. Keep coming back, my old man. Kamada von Rorik comes back to the party and says, "I'm following Barry today." There you are, Barry. Vote of confidence already.
I think there was a smiley after that, was there? Or was it a frowny face?
Probably a gif that we can't see.
He's a brave man, but a broken clock and all that. No, interestingly, you're talking about George Bowie's horse there, Galileo Gold. Obviously, his old boss, I think he was assistant trainer to Hugo Palmer when that won the Guineas. So, yeah, he's very familiar with that horse. And he hasn't made a bad start to his stud career, has he, James?
No, he hasn't. And I think George Bowie was the key cog in the Hugo Palmer wheel, because it was a few years ago when he worked there that Hugo Palmer was the next big thing, and then it nosedived a little bit. So I do think that George Bowie is
been said about that, I think.
Big part of that yard. I think when Nick Bradley had horses at Hugo Palmer's, I think he was dealing a lot with George Bowie. He's been Gabe Waterhouse everywhere you want to be. He's learned from the best, and it's an immediate impact. He's getting bigger and bigger all the time. Like I say, he's teamed up with probably the 2 best 2-year-old organisations, Ammo Racing Robson Aguiar, the breeds that consigner, he buys a lot of them. And then Nick Browdy is very successful as well. So he's with the right people, he's got the right connections. I like Oscar. I'm not quite as strong on her as you two are, but I do think you've got to consider her.
I just thought at the prices it was interesting. Daring, one of Barry's picks, I'm surprised he's as big as he is. He's got the one draw, unlike some of the other races we're about to see today. Still won a sprint track is absolutely fine. I think successful 3 times in the last 10 years. And if it doesn't get too far back, 11-4, it is bigger than I thought it would be. That's
the key issue though from Still One. It's a good draw if you can use it in that Newbury Conditions race. They went hard, but he was actually outpaced quite a way at the back of the field and stayed on strong. And Newbury, that's fine, flat track. If you did that at Epsom, you might get a bit far behind against some quite sharp 2-year-olds. That might just be why that one's on the drift, because form-wise, him and Flaming Rib, they're far above the others.
We've got another social in as well. Let's get some more interaction. Keep it coming today. We've got loads of time to talk in between the races. Not often on a Saturday, but certainly on Friday we get that. Hi team, I fancy Dusky Prince for this one, but the ground could be a concern. Right, we mentioned we're going to talk about Archie Watson. George Bowie, for me, TC, is doing what Archie Watson did about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit less than that. Aimed with the 2-year-olds, didn't he? Got them out and running. A little bit like what we expected Richard Hughes to do, of course. Yeah. You know, coming from the Hannon breeding, the first time out 2-year-olds, make a name for yourself with your 2-year-olds, and then sort of cement yourself a little bit. There's a great piece in the paper this week by James Burns saying that Archie Watson just does not anymore get the plaudits he deserves. George Bowie, for me, is doing an Archie Watson. Archie Watson, of course, and Holly Doyle. Serious link-up. Dusky Prince in here. Why didn't you like this one?
I think it was more a fact that just that debut run, I don't think that he actually faced any horse of any talent in there. He just dominated from the outset. Was sent off a short price, probably due to connections. You know, Archie Watson's horses are usually sent off short price in 2-year-old races. Yeah. He is bred to be very precocious. He's by Prince of Lear, who obviously won the Norfolk as a 2-year-old on soft ground as well.
In these colours?
In these silks, the Cool Silk partnership. I'm surprised that they didn't send Dusky Prince up to Beverley for the 2-year-old trophy, because they love that meeting, don't they? He's got a chance, but I just think his debut effort wasn't good enough to win this race.
Yeah, you're right. The mum was pretty fast as well, wasn't it? So from stall 7, that's interesting. Zoltan Star is another of Barry's picks out there, just to remind you, those of you that love to weigh in with Barry. I was surprised that he was, I know he's not won, but I was surprised that he was bigger in the betting than Raging, who has won, made it 3rd time lucky last time Pat Dobbs takes a ride. But Sean Levy back on Zoltan Star. Remember, they came for it, didn't they?
Yeah, both times Zoltan Star's run, they've come for it in the market. 6-4 and then 5-6 in 2 runs. Disappointed twice. From my perspective, I can't back a horse that's disappointed at short odds twice from 2 starts. But Zoltan Star could, by Kodiak, it's what you want in a 2-year-old, isn't it, by Kodiak? He could definitely bounce back. It's just the draw as well in gate 9. You have to look back until 2011 from the last horse to win from a draw higher than 6, and that was Fulbright breaking from gate 8. So stall 9 may be a big negative regarding Zoltan Star. TC
has done his homework on this race. You were doing a few previews, TC, in the paper today.
Yes.
You've done them for tomorrow as well. Yeah. A pretty busy day for you so far.
Yeah.
Just moving away from the Woodcote Stakes at this point, you've done the Coronation Cup, one of 2 Group 1s for us on the card today, both over the mile 4. Al-Azi. Not a race we associate the Coronation Cup with his trainer.
No, not at all. William Haggas only had 2 runners in the race, and he's been training for 34 years, which just shows that he doesn't aim his horses at the Coronation Cup. Those 2 runners were Southeaster in 2010, beaten up in 2012, and they finished 5th and 6th respectively, well beaten. It'll be interesting to see how Al-Azi gets on today. Everyone is hyping this horse up as the leading stayer, the leading light in Britain at the moment. He's produced an RPR of 124 in his last start at Newbury in the Aston Park, an extremely impressive performance, beating former Dante winner Thunderous, former St Ledger winner Logician. He's the horse we want to see win just for the sport. We want this new star. But it's an interesting bit of placing from William Haggas to run him at Epsom.
I think this was always the plan, and the Aston Park, which he ran in last time at Newbury, James, afterwards William said to us, he's so well, I didn't think I was going to run him again, but I'm going to get him out. It's a price thing with Al-Azi, surely, isn't it?
Yeah, I was a very keen layman when he was odds on, because the 2 Group 3s he's won, the form hasn't particularly worked out great. I don't think they're particularly strong Group 3s. He's absolutely cantered round and not been put under any pressure. The only time he was put under pressure last year, Goodwood, he ran an absolute shocker behind Mogul on a similar kind of track to Epsom, a little bit undulated, quick ground. we probably aren't going to have quick ground. So that's going to be a plus point because Mishreef destroyed him on quick ground. William Haggas last 7 runners, 6 seconds and a no. 6 winners and a no second. Absolutely flying at a lower level. Back to the Group 1 point, like not having the Coronation Cup. He doesn't tend to overface his horses at all. In the Derby, he had Charlotte win 94. I don't think he had another runner for about 20 years.
Until Dancing Rain, that also
won the Oaks. And he doesn't like running horses that he thinks aren't up to that level, whereas a lot of other trainers will aim high with horses that perhaps probably aren't good enough. So I think the fact that he does is always pretty significant. Very much flying at the minute. I'm just slightly concerned as he got the class to be a real short price in a Group 1. He hasn't shown it yet. We might find out today.
There are other Group 1 winners in the race, of course. And Barry, just to complete the quintet then, Al Arzi, he looked like he was going to go off odds on, but what price has he become a must bet, Barry?
Yeah, he's 248 now on the exchange, having been matched at 193 for smallish money, but he was a shade of odds on, so he's sliding all the time. I'm just waiting to see what the jockeys come in after the first and maybe even the second race when they let us know about the ground and we have a better indication there. But if that rain's really got into the ground, I think there's going to have to reassess his price, and I think he'll definitely shorten. Japan, there's been money for it. There's been money for Mogul. Pile Driver has had his supporters as well in the market. So they're backing everything against him because he's drifted from evens out to 6 to 4.
And he's in stall 1, James. Which
yeah,
is,
we did a little chat about that in the office.
Well, it is the coffin box, isn't it? For want of a different expression, but it is the worst possible draw you can get.
It is, but
over mile 4 at Epsom.
Less than, I think, 8 runners. I think Russ was on a look at the stats. It actually improves quite a bit.
The smaller the field, the bigger your chance.
Less it hampers you as such. So I wouldn't, it's a slight negative, but perhaps not the negative in the classics. I'm with Pile Driver, actually. I think if Martin Dwyer can keep him straight, which is a big, big if, his form last year was pretty strong, and I think he's overpriced because he's from a smaller yard. But
hung it away in the St Ledger, of course, didn't he? Do you remember? Yeah.
Even at Newmarket on his comeback, he went side to side.
Seems a long time ago that now, doesn't it? Let's get some more viewer interaction. Who joins the party? It is Damon Moffat. Damon Moffat comes back on us as Flaming Rib and Zoltan start in the first for me, bringing it back to the first. Okay, so we've teased you. 310, Al Arzi. He's on the drift. But if the jocks come in and say, definitely getting near good to soft, maybe even a little bit slower, 8 mil on the track today, Barry thinks there will be a crash on that. Maybe. Might want to get involved now. That's up to you. Okay, let's bring it back to the first. Sprint track at Epsom. 6 furlongs, not the 5 furlongs. Of course, we've got the Dash coming back to join the party. It wasn't run last year, was it? Because they had to fence it off because they didn't want the crowd there and spectators and all that sort of thing. So it comes back fastest 5 furlongs, certainly on a rules race course in the world, that's for sure. 6 furlongs. Talk us about it. You must have had, I asked you pre-show what your Epsom record was.
I think it was 0 from 5 or 6. It wasn't great, and I didn't particularly enjoy riding around there because it's a little bit of a roller coaster. I hated Brighton. It's just a higher grade Brighton.
It's a strong word, Millman.
It's a strong word, but I couldn't stand riding around there because it's just difficult. It's just it makes life hard. And
is that why you're so good at Kempton?
Perhaps
so easy,
flat and simple. But for Round Tatton Corner and 2-year-olds in particular, because your 2-year-olds are a little bit unbalanced anyway. You see them in a normal straight line and they're all over the place. You'll get a couple will rail like a greyhound. Unfortunately, a few of them really won't. Just watching the horses count down to the start, every jockey is having a little look at what the stand side's going to be.
Yes.
They're trying both sides, so they might even in race 1 and the 2-year-olds. For me, I'd probably try and keep it simple and then not go across as everyone in the pack. They normally have a chat at the start, and one will say, I'm going to go over, and they might all follow, but that's going to kind of open it up and might not make a low draw quite so bad.
It would be rare, TC, wouldn't it, in the first race for them to try it? It's not like, James is right, we see it Goodwood and the likes, and they're going to Sandown, they're going to come across, Windsor go far side, all that sort of stuff. But the first race is usually where they try and stick to type, isn't it?
Definitely, and it would make a bit of a mockery of the draw. We're all looking at these low-drawn horses, and if they come stand side, you may be looking at Dusky Prince from gate 7 to come across the rail. Just from someone that's never sat on a horse, James, when you're cantering down to post against, and looking to see what the ground's like, how can you feel the difference of good to soft or good? Do you know?
More the sound of what the horse makes. Like if you ever go racing and you listen to them counter by, they do make quite a racket. So,
which leads me to a question. Yep. You are not one of these, but we have had several jockeys sit on this panel in the past, as our viewers will know. None of them can fit the earpieces properly into their ears. Their ears are tiny, they're either closed. So what are you doing? You're sort of like listening for the ground.
No, it's the kind of feel and the noise. You can kind of make a bit of a judgment call, more because of the experience. If you do the same thing time and time again, if you go running and you run on tarmac, you run on grass, your body feels the difference, and you can feel it coming up through the horse.
Is it a feel thing then? It's
A
sort of
little
like
bit of a feel, bit of a
senses.
sound.
It's interesting, isn't it?
And the best jockeys will zigzag across and have a look. The even shrewder ones, and it is a big meeting of data. I've had a little walk on the track earlier on.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that an hour ago, you would have got to the track and had a walk. It could have changed quite a bit since then. So interesting. Like I say, Tom's right, they'll bring the high draw ones in a little bit more of a chance, because they won't be quite so worried if they are stuck 3 wide around Tottenham Corner.
A difference of opinion then could we see in the first race? It could get messy, Barry, couldn't it? For the in-running players out there, one going one side. We don't want split groups, do we?
No, certainly we don't. In the market, Flaming Ribs strengthened up now, Dave, into 11-4, having been around the 7-2 mark. Derrin's out to 4.4. Ascula is a drifter again, out to 10 now. Big negative for that. Sultan Star, bit of support for him into 10.5, having traded at 13. And Raging, another one of Richard Hannon's, who's won this twice in the last 7 years. That's into 12, having been traded at around the 16 mark. So a few quid for the 2 Richard Hannon runners now.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. You are quite right to flag out no trainer with a better record in the last 10 years than the Hannon himself. And again, it's not the classiest of woodcuts. We don't think. That said, something might well come out. Flaming Rib for James, isn't it?
Yep, sticking with that one.
Osculars across the board, and Barry going for Derrin. Is that how we say it? Derrin. Mm-hmm. And of course, and Zoltan Star as well. So we're sort of spreading our darts around a little bit in this race for you. We've got 5 races. Of course, 4:30 will be our final one, the Oaks. Who wins the Oaks? Let us know. Get us out there. 5 Aidan O'Brien darts go to post in the Oaks. Are you with Santa Barbara? Were you with her in the Guineas? Are you giving her another chance? Will she stay? Let us know. We'll give you a word on all that. Just the one runner tomorrow in the Bolshoi Ballet. Who wins the 2022 Derby? Let us know. Will we have another Serpentine? This meeting last year, guys, you remember you had to be on the front end, James, didn't you? It was very difficult to make up ground.
And it was repeated first meeting of the season, City and Suburban meeting. I think it's only one actually came from mid-div and got up on the line. So that's going to be key. Softer ground, it does make it a slightly different test, because you can go a little bit too quick on the easier ground, whereas on the quick ground, you can kind of kick off Tottenham Corner and get away from them on the camber. So interesting to see what they do with these 2-year-olds. Like I say, from a jockey's point of view, you want to try and keep it simple and keep in a pack, because they are herd animals, and the more inexperienced ones will follow. But yeah, I really do think that Flaming Rib with the ground probably going to be good to soft at minimum, you'd have to say, with that 8 mile rain. He's proven on the surface, and I think he could be hard to beat.
Keep tabs.
He's officially calling it good.
Yeah, that's it, Barry. So we'll just see how much has gone in. We'll be giving you all the race times straight after the races, keeping an eye on it all. It's due to be dry at Epsom tomorrow, so don't tear up your ticket. If you thought you needed rattling fast ground, I'll tell you what, William Haggis won't be. Well, he'll be happy for his runners today, but maybe not so. Not so tomorrow.
We should briefly mention Sienna Bonnie in here. 12s into 13-2 and short on the exchange. A big gamble on the exchanges as well.
Where's that come from, TC? Johnny Portman?
She ran really well behind Crazyland, who's really highly regarded by Clive Cox on debut, then won impressively at Bath. Last time at York, I thought she just came a bit unstuck. She finished 7th for 13, beaten by Nymphadora. She'll have to step up on that, but there's been a lot of money for her today.
Let's see how she gets on then. Good luck wherever you're playing the first on Derby weekend. It is the Woodcote, and off they go. A couple of tardy away, actually. Dusky Prince wasn't far off that well at all. Raging, despite the fact he's the most experienced. You wouldn't know it from the gates. He's nearer last than first, but Flaming Rib is up there. I'll tell you what, the rain continues to fall at Epsom. As expected, Oscular, made all at Brighton last time, adopts a front-running posse. Sierra Bonnie, she's up there as well. Really keen blue-collar lad for Robin Britton and Dave Pro, but not too far off, though. Looking for Derrin, right, just yet, perfect in 4th at the minute. James, initial thoughts as we come into the home straight?
Yeah, Flaming Rib's going quite nicely. He made all at Nottingham Oscula's got the rail. They've stayed far side.
They have stayed far side, TC. Can you pick it up? Will Darerin fill its ribs, or are we going to see the front two dominate?
It looks like the front three are travelling the best at this stage. Oscula's now making
Oscula.
far side rail. Dusky Prince making some ground in behind. Sienna Bonnie travelled nicely into the race, but seems to be floundering now. Oscula and Flaming Rib moving forward.
This is all over. George Bowie, another big race, 2-year-old win. Surely just absolutely burnt them off. We said you needed to be on the pace. Well done if you followed in the spotlights, because they're not going to get to it. I'll tell you what, Flaming Rib was the only one that gave it a race. Something coming from off the pack. Maybury, a massive improver, just going to get up for third. Darerin, that was the problem. Would it get too far back? Just lacked a zip. Very interesting indeed. Mark Crean giving a pat to her down the neck. Blew them away. Barry, story of the market, please, in the first.
Yeah, Flaming Rib hit a low at 2.38. Dave, not a lot of horses got into it, as you said in your commentary. The winners absolutely slooshed in for George Bowie, and Flaming Rib hit a low at 2.38. That's the lowest anything's gone outside it. Darren hit a low at 2.50. Don't ask me when that happened, because he never looked like he was a 6-4 chance at any stage whatsoever. But there was 16 quid traded, or 3.5 according to this. There was 3 quid traded at 2.52 and 2 quid at 2.5. That looks like it was a mistake, but around the 5-2 mark he traded that in, running 3.55 for 75 quid. But the winners slooshed in.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. Absolutely. So we're off to a flying start then. Oscula, spotlights, tick. TC and I thought she might come up best. I wasn't expecting her to win like that, TC, though, I must say.
She hit the line really powerfully, didn't she? Flaming Rib looked like throwing down a challenge at one stage. Sienna Bonnie as well travelled beautifully in behind the speed, but she quickened up nicely and went clear. The ground, I imagine, was more in her favour than last time when it was pretty quick at Brighton. But it's just the fact that early pace. I think early pace is such an underrated thing, especially at Epsom. He's massive front-running bias of the track. And usually, I want to be away from the far side rail, but Mark Crean, I know he's only a £5 claimer, but he showed a bit of experience and know-how there, just to move it off the rail slightly. And she handled the track lovely.
Yeah, the first 2 furlongs were key, I think, wasn't it, James?
He just kept his position and didn't let Flaming Rib come across him, which would have made life a little bit more difficult. I think she's hung off a rail, to be honest.
Would you have panicked a little bit if you're Mark Crean? I mean, obviously not speaking Mark's words for him, but you've got out with a game plan and want the lead, as I did at Brighton last time. Were you thinking that Flaming Rib might not be quite that prominent?
You knew it. Everyone in the Woodcote wants to be handy. So it's a bit of a race, all four. I was quite surprised Darian ended up just dropping back and then never really picked up.
Yeah.
Take out the filly who's flown home for Woody Jarvis, Maybury. She's actually out of a mare we trained, Azira Moore, who wasn't particularly straightforward. But she's the only one really to make up much ground. Zoltan Star never really picked up. The Portman filly got tired. But yeah, I think, again, George Bowie, I think he sent this filly to Brighton, effectively a trial for the Woodcote. What'll be 2 weeks later. Out the gates, stall 2. Race could have been lost if he hadn't got the lead. It would have made life harder for her, but job done.
For anyone that doesn't quite understand that, we're going to be talking about this a lot over the next 48 hours. In the Derby, you go to Lingfield, you go to these downhill tracks, Goodwood, switchback tracks we call them, Brighton in particular, James, as well, because there's a great big camber, isn't there, basically, where some horses handle it, some don't. I would wager that the Michael Bell 2-year-old there, Darerin, probably hasn't handled the track very well. Maybury didn't even look like she handled the track. She was a whopping eye catcher in third. I'll make you right. It's a well-balanced horse. Heavy-topped horse is not going to like it very much.
Yeah, generally, she's not the biggest. That's probably why she only made £4,000 at the sales. But that's kind of a good thing around Epsom. You don't want to be too heavy-topped, as you say. But just look at the footprints that have been left behind by the horses. There's no good to firmer places anymore. I think it will be good to soft at best at the moment.
We'll get the race time in shortly for you. Before we move on, we've got a real hot pot in the next coming up. Let's get some more viewer interaction. Andy Sims says, boom! Happy days, Andy. Off to an absolute flyer on Derby weekend. Isn't it great? And who have we got here? Droff Welsh Magic. Is that right? Have I got that right? Yeah. Doctor of Welsh Magic. Doctor of Welsh Magic. Why don't you just put spaces in it? It's ridiculous. Get in, says Doctor of Welsh Magic. Delete image. Okay, great stuff. So we're off, and there's a Betfair SP. You can see there a nice payout, wasn't it? And George Bowie continues to fly. Go to the Albany next with this TC.
Highly likely, yeah. She looks a really nice sort, and
not entered, is it?
Is she not?
Are the entries already out for the Albany? I'm not sure, Barry.
Closed, I don't think, for any 2-year-old race, yeah.
Oh, okay, we're not quite there.
Not closed.
Still time. Actually, Barry, on that, listen.
We haven't quoted it. I'll have to ask them for a quote for it.
That would be great. I'm sure, listen, if you win over 6 furlongs with a decent filly, pre-Royal Ascot, the Albany is where you usually think. Perhaps he'll say that it's a stiff 5 there. Might go back to the Queen Mary. You won't get the quotes anywhere bar the Racing Post sooner, basically. You see them on TV, they go and talk initially to the guys with the mics in their faces. However, when they talk to us, they've had more time to debrief, talk to all the connections. You get the finished article in your members section, of course, on your race analysis and the reports, all that sort of stuff. He might well be half tempted by the Queen Mary, which is over the 5 at Royal Ascot. He's got a couple for that as well, hasn't he? I think
the Queen
is one of his
Beautiful Morning, would that be one?
George Bowie's got loads of racing.
Beautiful Sunshine.
The Queen Mary is definitely a better race than the Albany at this stage as well. I think Ruthin is in a class above.
Wes Ward coming over for that again. Wes's horses you've been seeing coming back. There's been a couple of really tidy Ballydoyle 2-year-old winners in the last week or so, Barry, as well.
Yeah, there has. We've seen some nice horses over here. I don't know what way they're ranked at the moment. It's a watch and brief with them. But yeah, we saw a nice one in the Curragh the other day win the first race. His name just escapes me. Got a quote, I think somewhere 6 or 8 to 1 in Coventry.
Yeah, we'll get that. We will get that up. But they're just starting to fire now, aren't we? We've got the Marble Hill, of course. We saw a Fozzie Stack 2-year-old absolutely take that out. It's starting to warm up then, isn't it? What, we're around about 2.5 weeks till Royal Ascot. Cannot wait for that. But back to the Derby meeting we must go. Let's have it. Come on, let's have your classic winners. Who wins the Oaks? Who wins the Derby? We'll give them a shout all along the way. I saw an initial rough time coming in for that race, actually, guys.
2.3 seconds slower than last year. On good ground.
Nearly 5 secs outside standard. So we're talking about definitely ground we're cutting it, which might sound a bit silly, but sometimes when you see the rainfall on this ground, it's just taking off the top of it. Not a bit there. I think you could excuse a bad run in that Woodcote, I think, couldn't we? But we've seen a very nice filly going forward for Nick Bradley. Really well brought. And Royal Ascot next time. We'll see if Barry can get a prize for something like that going on. Okay. 4.22 secs outside standard. To be accurate, we are hearing. All right, great stuff. Dave Randall on Race Day Live to here at the Post that I can see who's doing the live tips that on the website is providing all that for me at the moment. All right, okay. I tell you what, just off-piste as we do on this show. Mm-hmm. In the past year, we've seen the miracle of modern science, haven't we, rapidly developing. Have meteorologists just gone the wrong way? What's gone on? Is there something somewhere that could tell us at the Met Office or something why they're so bad at predicting the weather?
An exact.
They're awful, aren't they?
That's the good thing about nature, though, isn't it? It's not predictable.
Do you use weather forecasts?
I only look to see if I'm going to get wet right now.
You're an assistant trainer, though. Do you know what I mean?
But you get going reports on the BHA site, which is what the club.
You go by them.
Well, they've got the more expensive weather analysts than what I'm going to get from my phone.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate here a little bit. Rod and James on a Tuesday morning deciding their Epsom team. Right, rattling ground at last after a miserable May with the ground. You turn up today. Are you looking for Andrew Cooper?
No, because you saw what the forecast was, and you know Epsom. So you get Brighton. We had runners at Brighton on Tuesday. That ground was absolutely rattling rock hard.
Yeah, the race times on Brighton, by the way, that was
nearly
sizzling, weren't they?
But for moderate horses, people aren't going to be so concerned. But you're not going to run potentially your best horses in training. And it's their test. Running downhill and on good grounds hard enough. But when it's good to firm, it does jar horses up. So Andrew Cooper, a little bit like the Grand National, you're never ever going to see a quick Grand National ever again. That's a risk. William Haggis is going to be a little bit gutted, I think, for his Derby candidate. I'll say I think it's going to be a positive for him.
It's just a British weather then.
It's a British weather, and from a trainer's point of view, making entries, 48-hour decks, even if you declared at 10 o'clock this morning, though, to be fair, you would have been expecting probably good ground at worst, but it didn't look like that at all today.
Okay, so at the moment we're thinking it's more like good to soft than good. Will we see a going update before the next, which is the 2:35 on your screens? You can see. I'm going to say, Barry, that this is perhaps the hot pot, backed-wise, of the entire weekend. I know we've got Bolshoi Ballet, I know we've got Al-Azi, but this is some gamble on the Irish Admiral, isn't it?
I don't think it's a massive gamble. He was quite defensively priced initially when we went up the race 48 hours ago. We put him in at 9 to 4. That quickly became 2 to 1. He's a 7 to 4 chance now in the exchange. So it hasn't been an absolute plunge on him from any fancy prices. He was always favourite in the race, and he was always going to be favourite in the race off the back of that third in York to Surrey Pride and Macram over a mile two, a little over actually a mile two, and he just didn't seem to get home. He quickened up so well in the centre of the track. He traded at 6-1 on that day in the Betfair Exchange and just didn't seem to get home. So they're dropping him back to a trip that he's more suited to. He was with Johnny Frayne in Ireland. He won first time up over 7 furlongs in Dundalk. And then they threw him straight into a listed race in Leopardstown after that on yielding to soft ground and acquitted himself really well. Finished 2.5 lengths third that day. He was subsequently bought. The race that he won in Wolverhampton now, he's a 3-1 on chance or 7-2 on. But the horse that he beat that day is only rated 77 now. And although he won well, but there's no form to speak of there. And then obviously he did what he did in York. So he's a worthy favourite. He's 7-4. There's still plenty of people on the exchange looking to take him on. I just can't find what's going to beat him in the race. I thought Murad maybe had a bit of a chance sorting. That was a good enough race, the Thurston Cup. There's a couple of horses I feel that have genuine chances in the Royal Hunt Cup at the festival in a couple of weeks' time that ran in that race that probably didn't give their true showing there. But yeah, it's hard to get away from the favourite here, Dave. I'm just going to have 50 quid on it, just really straightforward at 272. Happy to be we'll be a price maker here and we'll show people how to do that. So we're going to back Irish Admiral. We're going to have 50 quid on, and we're going to look to maybe back it at around 276. So we'll go in the queue there at 276, and we hope that it just drifts out a little bit to a more acceptable price. And I think it will. I think we'll get matched, but we can reassess that. We've plenty of time between now and the off.
Well, that's interesting. I thought you were going to tell me it had been more popular. I'll tell you why, Barry, because I'm surrounded by, top tipsters here at the Racing Post. I'm speaking to Paul Keeley yesterday and this morning. This is already won. This is past the post, according to Kills. He's that confident about it. I think he's put 3 points up if you're reading in your members section for the Sizzler, which for Kills is a confident selection. They usually oblige. I'm with it. Don't get me wrong. This is a typical greed punter that you'll probably all be shouting at the telly, which we all do from time to time. But this is irrelevant for price for me. This guys, because I backed this at York over the mile 2, and I'll describe what I think went wrong, why he didn't win, despite the fact he must have gone. Actually, Barry, let's stick with you on this day. Can you remember what he went that day, Barry, when he
1.16.
Wow, there you go. It looked done and dusted. He came all the way from the back of the pack, and I said to everyone who I'd said this is probably a good thing too, and tried to then debrief why I hadn't put money in their pockets with the selection. Once this goes back to a mile, we've got to be with it. So I can't desert it, basically, and most of them are all totally exposed. There was a horse that runs later in the card, on this card, called Blue Cup in that race. And when I spoke to Mr. Haggis prior Irish Admiral running that later that week, he called it Blue Cup's race at York. Blue Cup was a well-backed favourite on a luckless run here at Epsom at the opening meeting. And Kevin Stott, who rode Irish Admiral that day, basically tagged on to Blue Cup. And that saw him go right to the back of the field because Will Buick, who rode Blue Cup that day, was just far too keen, and he got further back than they wanted. It left Kevin Stott marooned at the back, and he thought, hang on a minute, I'm going to have to keep going here. If you watch back now your replay out there while we're talking, just look at the amount of ground he makes up. Now, he's either paid for that, James, or he hasn't got home. We are going to find out here. But if it is a case that he is a miler, and William Haggis in the paper today said, I wanted to go straight for the Royal Hunt Cup, that was exactly the sort of run that would make William purr for that race, 100%. But he doesn't think he'll get in off 96, so he needs to win here to ensure that happens.
Yeah, and obviously he could have gone for the Monarch Order race later on, which Blue Cap does actually go for. Yes, I think he was following him, but from the stall 12, I think 12 he was in. If they wanted to get cover to see him settle and stay out, they had to kind of drop him in, and it did leave him too far behind. He made up a lot of ground from the 3 to the 1, and then it petered out. He still can't say he didn't stay because it was a career best over 10, but clearly at home he's been showing a lot more than the end result.
Yeah. That is the interesting point here, and that's the potential egg on face if you're going back in thinking it's just a trip. I said to Kills, well, if he was that well treated, would he not have still just seen it out better than those horses there? But Kills has looked at the pedigree, not worried about the rain. Kills wasn't at all, by the way, for this. Thought more rain the better, and as Barry mentioned, that 2-year-old listed run came with cut in the ground. I mean, we're going to find out a lot about this horse, aren't we? But he is penciled in to join a Dave for 2022 trip down under.
The only worry is how that first race was run. He's in stall at 8. If he's a little bit keen and they want cover to settle him, he's going to be 5th, 6th at best.
That's the worry here, isn't it?
That is the only way. Form-wise, I can't find anything that's got any near the unexposed nature that he has that's potentially 10, 14 pound ahead of them up.
Is he the tip?
No. But
Okay, Jones, come
I'm
on.
going to go Mustawa in the fact that Heather Main's horse is very uncomplicated, can be ridden very handy from stall 5. I'll be, what's he now? 7.6. I'll be putting into lay at about 3, 2-1.
Also ran at the Dante meeting. Know he's going to be up there, don't we? And if this bias towards the front pays out, then Irish Admiral's in trouble, TC, right?
Yeah, that's the only reason why I want to take him on. He was a clear eye catcher at York in a race where I napped Blue Cup that day. So I'm not surprised that William Haggis...
Blue Cup's race, William Haggis.
Yeah, I thought it was all over before we even started with Blue Cup, but he was just far too keen, race over. Irish Admiral was the eye catcher, but I think he's just going to be quite far back in this race. And I'm not saying he's not going to win. Look, he's clearly the most obvious winner in the race, but at 6-4, I don't really want to take that risk. I'd rather back each way Coronation Espinado at 16, 17s on the exchange, Betfair Exchange, whatever price he is now. If he gets a place, you're going to get basically 3-1. It's just much better value than 6-4 on the favourite. He's a course winner, course and distance winner. He's dropped back down to a nice mark. I know he's drawn in gate 10, but he's got Holly Doyle's assistance, which is obviously a big plus. She's going to ride him forward and hopefully he can get a place. But Irish Admiral is the horse to beat.
Don't be worried about the wide draw. 9 of 14 when this race was last run. That was gossiping, of course, in 2019. And I'm seeing a couple of stall 11s as well, so don't be too worried about that. And yeah, Holly Doyle is nothing wrong with that booking whatsoever. Is there another one in here that you like, James? Is that later on in the Mile 2 race?
That's later on in the Sky Defender, because again, a prominent
teasing
race
your tips here, you know.
But yeah, I think Mustawa, back him each way. Back in now, lay off in running, because I think he will trade shorter.
That's an interesting angle, isn't it, I think?
Definitely, because Irish Admiral, look, if Tom Marcan is positive and the horse settles, and then it's probably game over. But he was dropped right out at...
Do you think over the mile they can be more prominent?
That could easily be they were concerned about a trip. They're not concerned about a trip. They could probably ride him handier. But from stall 8, then you're going to be still 3-4 wide, unless you're really handy and you know Tom's tip. Coronation Espinado, there's only really one way probably for him to try and win, and that's to go hard early and get across from stall 10. So there's going to be a fair bit of pace. I think he's the best horse in the race, but that's your only question mark if you are going to back him at a very short price.
Yeah, okay, so there you can see the spotlight. You haven't done the spotlights, TC.
No,
I know you're an octopus, but you haven't been doing that as well, have you?
No time to do that one, Dave.
Okay, who was it? Let's have a look down. Just I've got it on my screen. It was Steve Boo. Okay, a doyen of the spotlight, Steve is. So, and they've been, as you know, I've been giving them great shouts here on this show because they have been hot with their strike rights on our Saturday shows. There you go. And of course, it was Oscar in the first. So they're bidding to make it 2 from 2, and they're with TC. Irish Admiral warrants respect. Let's hope TC. Let's hope Seagull and of course Irish Admiral backer of the day. Paul Keeley is not reading that. We've got a comment coming up. Damien Moffat. Damon, I want to call you Damien for some reason. Damon, which I should get right. Irish Admiral. I hope I have him in a double with Oscar as well. Okay, the multiples must be raging up as well. Yeah, good luck. I think, look, if he gets a clear run, it's going to be very difficult. But Storting is interesting though, right? Because that Thirst Hunt Cup is interesting. And Barry, I want to bat that back to you, Storting, because I know who it is that you like in the Hunt Cup. It's trained by Sir Michael Stout, isn't it? Astro King.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, Astro King. I just thought the draw didn't really suit him that day in the Thirst Hunt Cup, and I think he'll come on considerably as well for that run. I think the aim all along has probably been the Hunt Cup at the Royal meeting, and yeah, back to him.
It's interesting. Sir Michael off 95. He's not running again. Sorry, and actually, no, he's got 98, so he'll just sneak in. Whereas 96, William Haggis has kind of had his hand forced.
He's 50th on the list, isn't he?
Try and just sneak in.
Astro King, watch that back now, because if you want to get an idea of Storting's win, Storting was a big price that day, which was perhaps, in hindsight, a beautiful thing, isn't it? It was overpriced. It wasn't a bad run on his comeback, was it? And you always get a bit of value with Shannon horses, TC, don't you? And James Doyle on.
Yeah, plenty of people took the value at Thirst because he was 40s, and then there's a big late plunge into 18-1. I know he's still a double-figure price, but there was money about for him. And he beat some sharp horses, Nugget, Astro King, John Baptiste, who won again since. Some decent fields back in the, some decent runners back in the field as well. Hortzadar, who runs in this race.
Byron's Choice.
Yeah, Byron's Choice, Tom Collins. There were several decent horses back in the field, so he didn't beat a load of mugs there. He's got proven form, And if he can go ahead from that race on just his 13th start, then he's a player under Doyle.
Byron's choice. You've had to bring that up, Barry. Let's hope the Graham Rodway's not watching. Oh, that was some scenes on Saturday, the last race, wasn't it? We thought he was finally going to get his losing run.
Oh, no.
On this show, we
Did
should
it
say, he's been
continue?
on form in the paper. He'd kill me if I don't say that. But he put up, I can't remember the name of the horse now. It was a Mark Johnson or something. Well, yeah, Sibart. It went clear. It looked like it was going to do it. I was cheering him on. Then all of a sudden, mine starts coming out the pack. And it just gets up, and it got him. Barry was with him as well. The absolute scenes. We know that the viewers love that as well. Oh, my goodness gracious me, Byron's choice. So, look, yeah, that was a good race, wasn't it? Storting. Did you think he'd be a little bit shorter than 4-1 potentially? I was looking for James Doyle's record from Mr. Shannon as well. It's not a yard that he usually rides for. So the plan was to try and get him into the Hunt Cup, but Mick said this morning in the paper, not going to make it. So this is his big target. Basically, we've got some news breaking. Apparently, Richard Hoyles has broken on Twitter. Adam Kirby stuck in traffic. Oh, Adam Kirby, what a week he is having. And he rides Hortazar in this race. So there you go. There's a jockey change. Thanks, guys, in the gallery for that. Adam Kirby. It's been some week for Adam, hasn't it, James?
Ups and downs. Losing John Leaper, getting on ADR. And the thing is, with the John Leaper, a lot of people saying, look, he shouldn't have been jocked off. You've got Frankie Dettori in the weighing room. Now, I don't think Frankie's the ideal jockey for the horse, but for Connection's point of view, they want someone that's got all that experience. And Adam doesn't actually ride for the yard that often, hasn't actually ridden a horse before. So I can kind of see it was an easier move to make than what some people made. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a stressful run up to the Oaks for Adam if he's stuck in traffic now.
And then, of course, he gets back in the race on Adayar, the Godolphin second or third string, and
Still won.
And he gets still one. I mean, it's some game, isn't it? But at least we're talking about a multiple Group 1 winning jockey. He won't mind too much. Part of the game, TC, isn't it, that?
Yeah, it's part of the game. When Frankie's just sat in the weighing room, you know someone's going to get jogged off because Frankie never misses a ride in a classic. And unfortunately with Adam Kirby, yeah, part of the game. We'll see. If Adam Kirby wins on a day, you know, that'll be
Bushy
the
Murphy's now riding it. That's unbelievable, isn't it? Champion jockey.
Yeah, he lost the ride to Adam on RDI, who he was jocked up on. And
I think Joseph thought he had Frankie at one stage for Southern Lights.
Yeah, this is a horse that
he was penciled in for that.
This is a project for you, Barry, this Southern Lights, isn't it? We've got a bit of time before the next. I know that me and you have liked Southern Lights for Joseph O'Brien's. He didn't get the rub of the green in Derrenstown, and they're rolling the dice tomorrow in the biggie.
They are, yeah. They're taking their chance in it, and rightly so. He's by a Derby winner. He's bred to stay. He'll improve markedly for the step up to 1.5 miles. He would have been a lot closer to Bolshoi Ballet. Only he was stopped in his run in Leopardstown in the Derrenstown trial. Not to say that he'll beat Bolshoi Ballet if indeed Bolshoi Ballet wins, but he'll be a lot closer to him. That's for sure. Whatever way the race pans out, he'd prefer not to see the rain from now. He'd want a bit of decent ground. So hopefully it dries out quickly in Epsom over the next 24 hours. But if it does, he's a player at a big price, Dave. You know, I'm on him at big prices, and he's still a big price. He's still around 20, 25 to 1, and he could be a bit of value in a decent open race.
Yeah, you know, he's a horse that's not quite shown his best thus far. And the fact that they're pitching him into the Derby when they have got all sorts of different options, could have gone to the Royal Ascot Derby, for example, then onto the Curragh, couldn't they? Maybe it says quite a bit about his potential, I think, for Joseph O'Brien's yard. OK, so that's the Derby. We're still waiting for some Derby tips to come in. Are you just Bolshoi Ballet after the Derrenstown? Is it that simple? Or now that the ground has come, I'm really surprised. And I do expect a gamble on McSweeney, of course, for Jim Bolger, the Guineas winner, classic form and all that sort of thing. Let us know. Southern Lights, a big player for Barry. OK, let's get some socials up. What have we got coming on? Let's have a look. Tom Barras comes back onto the show and says, to coin a phrase, Irish Admiral is a group horse in a handicap here. We're agreeing with this.
I agree with the sentiment. It's just whether the track might prevent that groupness from showing, I suppose.
But this is one thing that Kills said to me earlier, Paul Keeley, again, if you're just joining him, he's all over this Irish Admiral. He says, this is Newbury. This is all over.
Yeah.
You know, so...
If it was Newbury, you'd get a stronger handicap, though. Because both the Epsom races, the handicaps, they are quite weak for the money.
And with your planning hat on, does he have to come here, TC, to get him in? Would there be other mile races? Probably not a lot, are there?
Well, this seems a reasonably weak race for the division, I'd say. And I'm not convinced he's a group horse in a handicap just yet. I mean, he's won a maiden and a novice event. You have to bear in mind he hasn't actually won a race of serious stature yet. I know he travelled through the race like a potential group horse last time at York, but he still has to prove it today. I mean, if he was literally a group horse in a handicap, he would be shorter than 11 to 8. And even now, I don't think there's value in his price. I think he's priced up on potential rather than what he's shown so far.
7-4 now.
7-4 now, says Barry, and it's William Haggis has had 3 previous runners in this race, 2 places, so no success, but knocking on the crossbar. And this hasn't been a great race for favourites either. Only Abseil was the last. Abseil landing at Gamble back in 2014 with James Doyle, Khalid Abdullah, horse Sir Michael Stout. So, yeah, is this a weak race? Group horse and handicap. We're agreeing with you, Tom. Slightly worried about the track and the luck in running for him. That's what you're betting against, basically. Who else have we got coming onto the show? VJ Seamar comes on and says, Corazon for a place, guys. Spotlight with you, tick. Tom Collins with you, tick. Are you expecting him to try and get the outright lead, TC?
Yeah, well, he's drawn wide in gate 10. Holly Doyle's not going to have much choice. I think maybe she might be able to sit on the shoulder of Overright, who's drawn just one place inside in 9, but I wouldn't be surprised if Holly did go forward and try to make the running. I just think there's a huge, well, I know there's a huge bias at Epsom for front-running sorts, and hopefully Corazon Espinado can stick it out better than the others that want to go forward, the likes of Overright in this field, and James has tipped Mostawa.
Where are you expecting Mostawa to go in the home straight?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Martin Dwyer
Martin
on.
Dwyer should test out the outside rail.
Derby winning jockey.
For pile driver later on.
Yeah.
Sacrificial lamb that Mostawa is.
It's an I think they're all going in a group as a relatively small field, whatever they do decide to do. Back to Irish Admiral. Sheikh Ahmed Al Maktoum, you very rarely see them buy horses that switch into their colours. So I think they would have paid a fair bit of money for that third Leopardstown enlisted race in his second start. And I just think he's got a Dave written all over him.
Well, this is, look, a Dave, who's Williams' highest rated horse, of course, been down under and won Group 1s in Australia last 2 winters. I think, yeah, just about, isn't it? And he's bidding to go down under again. And they want a horse to go with him. Both the horses they took down with him, Young Rascal and the Stayer, who I forget, fantastic.
That won, didn't it?
They both won, basically. But you've got to be rated a certain rating to get in. And of course, this looks, same silks have bought it. You can see the plan, can't you? But it's the Royal Hunt Cup first. I'm really, really excited about this. I cannot wait for this race. There are other angles there. Murad, who Barry mentioned as well. He just went off like a scolded cat at Ascot last time. He's a likely pace angle. Jim Crowley from 7. Who else have we got in there? Overright, Mark Johnson, Franny Norton. I bet they'll be tempted to go. Here's an interesting question for you. As a jock, if you were down there now, with all the curveball of the ground and where the track might be riding best, and you've heard that the ground is best on one side of the track or the other, are you looking at someone just before you jump off going, don't you dare go stand side?
Yeah, because it puts you in a difficult position. Do you follow or do you stick? And that's where I think Ryan Moore is very good. He's one that's quite happy.
You have had a similar case to that before, haven't you, at
Epsom?
Carpenter?
At Epsom, for me, yeah. Well, that wasn't me finding better ground. That was a horse hanging across the track.
Oh, was it? Painful memories, I'm sure.
Sprint track, 2-year-old. It went from stand side to far side.
How does that even happen?
Because he's not level. So it's running downhill like that.
Not a lot you could do to correct it, obviously.
I was 7 mile claim and I couldn't ride, so it just went straight down the camber. Yeah. It's hard, and that's why jockeyship does play a part. And you can be on the inside trying to get your horse to go around one in front of you, but you can't actually get it to go back up the camber.
Remarkable.
It can be hanging that valley down. Yeah, intriguing to see where they will go across, because I'd say there's a fair bit of kickback coming from those 2-year-olds. I didn't think they would in that contest because of their inexperience. We've got a lot of handicappers now. You've got Holly probably going to be making the run in. Overright, who's on that? Franny Norton, Shrewdies.
Temptation's there, isn't it?
Yeah, probably going to lead the pack.
Yeah.
I think if I was sitting in 3rd or 4th and the ones in front went over, you're definitely going to be following. You're not going to be...
We've also got Sylvester de Souza in this, of course, on the first time blinkered Fox duty free.
He's a tricky customer.
He's looked like he might need a pair of blinkers in the past, didn't he? I mean, he did come good on the all-weather, didn't he? But he's since shown that he might be getting tricky again. But Sylvester only got... This is Epsom, if he thinks there's a front-runner bias. So we're expecting plenty of pace on here, basically, but will they go over? We've seen it before at Sandown, at Brigadier Gerard night. It happened last Thursday, didn't it, basically, where they came over stand side, then they went back to the far side, and then they went back over to the stand side again. Give us a chance.
It's hard to predict, isn't it?
Predicting jockeys is not the sort of thing we should be trying to do too often, but we are today, of course. All right, Barry, we are around about 5 minutes away from this really good handicap. What price is he now then, the Irish Admiral?
Yeah, 258, heading towards 6-4 now. After we've got match at 276, thankfully. It's 5.4 sorting. Matsuawa is 8, and it's 17 bar Murad out to 17.5 now. How's that? 13.5. Fox Duty Free is 18.5. 18 Corazon Espinado. Yeah, it's all about the favourite, Dave.
It has now been changed, Barry, as well, to good to soft all over, with some jockeys telling our men on track that it's actually worse than that. So listen, we'll see. Could they well come over? Remarkable, isn't it? How things can change here in Britain. Remarkable. All right then. So again, good luck wherever you're playing. If you're on the plunge, let us know. You've still got time to get your selections in. We are 2 hours away from the biggie, the Epsom Oaks. Santa Barbara, or are you going for Snowfall? Frankie Dettori, could he take another classic on, I suppose, second string? 5. Aidan O'Brien goes down. Are you going for something like Zayada? Is that the pronunciation?
Zayada, yeah.
Zayada? Roger Varians?
She's my selection in the race, yeah.
You and James are agreeing then?
Yeah.
Yes and no. I changed my mind. I've gone for the other Dubai.
You are allowed to do that.
Because pre-Dex, I was with Ziyada as well. I'm just still won. The record's shocking. Secret gesture.
So you think Dubai Phantom will uphold the Chester?
The thing is, you're looking at the Chester Oaks, and you know Dubai Phantom got first run because Ziyada was 3 lengths off her. That's going to be exactly the same scenario again today. Still 6. You'd imagine Frank Norton's going to be able to sit relatively handy. Jim Crowley from that box 1, he normally misses a break anyway, but he's going to be potentially not in a great position. So
he's going to have to suck it up early, Jim.
Exactly, and I just think the price is, she's already beaten her once before. It may well happen again, and the draw 1 hasn't been handy, but she's strong in the market. And I know post-race, Jim Crowley, he felt that he'd easily beat Dubai Fountain in the Oaks. Just that draw has really put a spell in the works for her.
Yeah, I thought Zayada travelled much better in the Cheshire Oaks personally, and I think he's going to get an okay sit today. I know he's in the worst box supposedly in Gate 1, but you've got Ocean Road in Gate 2, who's a slow breaker in her own right.
Good point.
And just outside them is Mystery Angel, who's going to go forward, so Jim should be able to get the nice slot in mid-div. She proved she stayed the trip at Chester. I think she's going to get a nice run through the race, and with extra race fitness on her side. Obviously, first run back was at Chester in the Cheshire Oaks. I think she's going to improve past the Mark Johnson trained filly.
Okay, so if you're wondering what we're talking about, we just tuned in. We are talking here on Racing Post Live about the draw and the effect of it. The lower you do not want to go, of course, at mile 4. So high, that's what we're expecting. And stall 2, never ever won the Derby. Freaky. But yeah, that's the case. And in the last 10 years, only 2 horses have even placed in the Derby for the bottom 4 stalls. A reminder of the tips then. Corazon Espinado for TC and the spotlights out there. I think Irish Admiral will prove himself to be the group horse in the handicap. And Barry Orr is with me. He's had the charity bet on that as well. James, Mostawa for you, isn't it?
Yeah, each way, and I'll probably back on the exchanges and lay off in running. I think he will trade shorter. You can keep an eye on Irish Admiral. Do you think he's in a good position around Tottenham Corner? And I think I'd be more confident when I know exactly where he's placed at that point. Tom
Marquand will have, of course, been thinking about this ride probably for some time now, wouldn't he, I imagine?
It's been a waste of time thinking about it last night, though, because it's probably going to be a pretty different scenario after all this rain, let's say.
He's a man to think on his head, though, isn't he? He's got a plan B, C, D and E, hasn't he, Tom Marquand?
Very, very shrewd, very tactically aware. And you've seen that when he goes over to Australia, which only British jockey to go out there regularly, and 2 years in a row now he's gone over.
Tom the Pom, though, which is known, that's been coined recently, Aussie Tom. All right, so good luck. Okay, they are now going in the stalls. I'm delighted to tell you 2 of 5 races that we're bringing you. Race 2 is about to come up. Good luck wherever you're playing. Really hope that we shout you home a winner here. Will it be, another outright favourite? They haven't really been going in this race. So Irish Admiral, a couple of trends to buck, hasn't he? But wow, that mid-race, mid-race move, that's 3-2 out at York last time.
Are you counting the cash?
Well, 100%. Like everyone else, Barry said he went 6s on. Was I counting the cash? Rub it in, James Millman. Absolutely I was. Still, it was one of those shake-head moments. How has that not won?
Hit that one pole. And then the tears.
But it is actually, on that point, 2 wins on synthetics, 2 defeats on turf. We haven't concentrated on that, TC. We're going to find out about his attitude as well, aren't we, a little bit?
Yeah, I think he's got plenty to prove. He's favourite, as I said, based on potential rather than what he's shown. There are questions he has to answer. That's not saying he's not going to answer them. He is shaped like a horse who is a cut above this level, but he's definitely got things to prove in this race.
I'll tell you what, if this gets beaten, you are not going to want to hang around Epsom after this, because Paul Keeley lives in Epsom and he will be absolutely livid. He didn't even get tickets to go today. All right, OK, it is the 2:35 at Epsom and we are off and running Mythical Magic's a little bit of a rear, but nowhere near as bad as Fox Duty Free. First time blinkers, he's still completely blown it. What a character he is. Corazon Esplanada then, as expected, is up there with Overright. Hortazar, jockey switch on the inside. I'll tell you what, they must be going quite quick if they're leading Murad, who's taking a hold. Now, where is the favourite? He's in midfield, not quite so far back as we were expecting. He's tracking Storting, his main market rival. On the inside of Mythical Madness, Plant a Dream. Mostawar right out the back, James. Didn't see that happening.
No, and not travelling the yard either. It was a bit upset in the stalls. I think his chance might be gone. Looks like they're going to stay far side. They're going to come across. Interested to see where Franny Norton leads them. I don't think Franny or Holly have gone particularly hard in front, and they might be hard to catch.
That's the key here, TC, isn't it? We're about to find out as they calm down Tatton Corner into this head home straight. And Mostawar doesn't look happy whatsoever. The favourite's upsides him though, TC.
Yeah, he's quite a way back. He's going to have to produce the same mid-race move as he did last time at York. These two leaders have kicked clear off the bend. Holly Doyle and Franny Norton, two of the canniest front-running riders we have. They're 4 lengths clear of Portador.
Yeah, you can see the market there. Yeah, so the market is developing in front of our eyes. He's off the bridle as well. I'll tell you what, he's gone all the way out to 5-1 Irish Admiral. This is not looking good at all.
Come on,
the
Holly.
front runner bias is there. And Holly, I'll tell you what, TC, you might have pulled one out of the fire here. The front runner's once again dominating. Overright on the inside. Corazon Esplanado. They've still got a fair bit to go. Can Oddsar pick him up? Nothing really coming from the back.
Holly.
Irish Admiral, it's all gone wrong for him. Corazon Esplanado goes in front. I'll tell you what, TC's absolutely going to laugh this one home. What a price this was. Holly Doyle, loads of people just staring at the TV and thinking this girl just wins absolutely everything. Absolutely hoses up, makes a mockery of it. Who knew? TC, wow. Hortazar second, Plant a Dream, the only horse to get any semblance of an imprint from off the back. That front runner bias, 2 races. It's playing out again. TC, congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, another front-running winner. I just lean towards these aggressively ridden horses in most races at Epsom, and it seemed to work so far today. Holly Doyle, brilliant on Corazon Esplanado, who was keen at the first bend, forced 3 wide by Hortzadar and Overright, but Holly managed to get him to settle nicely. The duo up front kicked clear off the bend, which was a crucial part of the race. Overright didn't stay the trip. Corazon Esplanado very much did. The switch back to turf from all weather has clearly been a big advantage to him.
OK, Barry, let's go. You could see, couldn't you? Furlong market, it was all over. Can't have gone big at any stage, really, can they?
No, it didn't really. Hortzadar hit a low of 2.58. Overright hit a low of 2-1, 3.0. Your winner was a high of 25, but I think that was pre-race. There was 24, 50 quid match pre-race at 24. Great shout, Tom, and put up by Kevin Blake on the Racing Only Better podcast last night as his nap as well. So well done, both of you.
Oh, there we go. Who knew? Who knew? There we go. Turns out Spotlight 2 from 2. Tom Collins on RP Live doing the trading today for Betfair and pointing you in the way of the winners. You're a little deflated there, Mr. Millman, aren't you? Because you should have been up there, man.
Well, that's the thing. I went for Mostawar because it's normally a handily ridden horse. I probably didn't think he'd make the run in because Coronado Esplanada does go off pretty hard. But look at Holly's taken a huge pull. She's got there pretty easy. I think they're very, very happy. Tom Marquard's horse. We knew that's probably where he was going to slot in.
It was horrible, a horrible viewing if you're on the Fab like me.
He hasn't actually beaten Plant a Dream, who's currently behind him, and that has quickened past him. So he wasn't great place, but he's disappointed anyway. And softer ground, Epsom, unique track.
The whole thing.
Track, so I put a line through it.
All the negative ticks apply to Irish Admiral, don't they, on this race?
Yeah, you're still going to be disappointed.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We're talking about a 6-4 shot in a competitive handicap. But all about finding the front runners, isn't it? And we've got Al-Azi, a hot pot, who likes to stalk out the back. Smaller field, but coming up in the Coronation Cup. That's next. We'll be going Group 1 way. But there you can see there's a Betfair SP. Absolutely fantastic. I hope you have been joining us so far here on Racing Post Live, because Tom Collins, 2 from 2. Spotlights, 2 from 2. It's a good day so far. Don't worry about it when it rains. We've got the guys here that can pinpoint exactly who you need to be with. Myself, Dave Orton, James Millman back in the seat, Tom Collins and Barry Orr with you until just after 4:30. It's the Epsom Oaks. Come on, I want these classic selections in. Who's looking for the front runners in the Oaks now? Snowfall, will it lead? Dubai Fountain will be up there as well. Or will we see, like last year, it's typical, just when you think a trend is developing, a horse like Love comes out the pack. Doesn't matter, last to first, absolutely hoses up. Holly Doyle. A word for Holly Doyle. How much better can it get? Champion jockey, you like her for that, James, don't you?
Yeah, I do. She's probably gone a little bit quieter in the last couple of weeks. Tom had a treble, I think it was at Chelmsford last night.
Fiancé.
And yeah, she's just improved year on year. And she's 7 from 54 in the past fortnight, giving out an absolutely cracking ride. That's a typical Holly Doyle ride, isn't it? Very good gate speed, which she's kind of honed riding the Archie Watson 2-year-olds from the last few seasons, and got that one out of the gates, kicked it exactly the right time, killed off Overright because he's actually stopped quite quickly.
Is he flattered Overright a little bit, TC, in the fact that he's just been up there? Or I mean, what are we doing with his form?
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at those in behind who ran on well. Plant a Dream ran on nicely for second or third, maybe. Overright, yeah, I flattered finishing fifth. I mean, you could have given him a big advantage being on the pace with Corazon Espinado. They kicked at the right time and he just didn't stick out the trip. Maybe a cut back to 7 furlongs or a mile will be better for him rather than a mile and half furlong. Holly Doyle, though, there's no negatives about Holly Doyle. She has strength. She has the work ethic. She has, I mean, a brilliant nature to win races. She knows how to ride up on the speed. She can ride closers. The only thing she's missing for champion jockey to win the champion jockey crown is a constant stream of good horses.
Yeah,
and maybe champion jockey though, you don't actually, because it's done numerically, you don't really want to have the really classy horses where you're kind of told you've got to go to that meeting and ride one good chance and
shoot. It rewards graft, doesn't it?
Exactly. Hence the northern support barrier, isn't it? Very much so.
You still want to be riding horses that are favourite towards the head of the market in those respective races, where sometimes she picks up horses that are double-figure prices rather than the protagonists.
So what does she have to do, James, to become champion jockey? Does she, because she has got a retainership, of course, and she will have some allegiances with certain horses, etc.
Yeah, I think she's going to have to miss the big meetings. Like tomorrow, she is not at Epsom, she's at Musselburgh. She's only actually got 3 rides, but she's going to have to pick and choose. She doesn't really want to be going to Royal Ascot when she's probably got 20-1 shots.
She was at Thirsk one Saturday, not that long ago.
Yeah, Saturdays. She was a Saturday girl, wasn't she? Leicester. She had 4 winners in one day there. To be champion jockey, that's what she's going to have to look at, those kind of angles, because yes, she hasn't got the Godolphin maiden winners at the end of the season like William Buick's going to have. Oisin's got the back in the Qatar, her retained ownership. They don't have quite so many horses that are going to win maidens as such, but she's 9 behind now. Oisin's 28, William Buick 23, Danny Taylor 21, along with Tom Marquand, James Doyle and Holly, both on 19, so they're not far away.
Do you think she's penciled in for one of the big jobs one day? Do you think she might become leading jockey at, say, Godolphin? Or
the only thing, when you're riding big colts, she is on the smaller side, and that might just be a negative. She's very, very strong, but she's kind of 8 stone strong.
She is.
That would be
diminutive.
That would be the only negative. Against that, she's kept on raising the bar every single campaign. I say the top job. You've got the educating the young horses to go through and win their races. They're not looking for long term. They're looking for that one season, and that's where the difference, I think, between a good stable jockey for that and riding lots and lots of winners. It's kind of 2 slightly different angles, but it's interesting to see what happens. William Buick, James Doyle seems to be a pretty good combination for Godolphin. I think they're going to be there for quite a while.
Yeah,
what big job?
They're perfect there, aren't they? Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, though, won't it? Whether someone comes a-calling not too long. It'll be a great, it's a win-win for them, I imagine. PR-wise, everything. It would break new ground. I met Holly Doyle a couple of years ago at the Derby Awards, and I mean, I got 2 chins anyway, but honestly, I had to about 5 when I was looking down, because she's literally so small. But a friend of mine got into racing not that long ago, and since a racing resumption has come back, this guy has gone to. I haven't been racing that much, I haven't had the chance. I'm a new sort of fan, an enthusiast. And he went to Lingfield the other day, TC, and he texted me saying, "I can't believe that Sylvester de Sousa isn't any bigger than Holly Doyle."
I know.
Yeah.
I interviewed Sylvester de Sousa a few times back in the early days at Racing Post when I used to do racecourse shifts at Epsom, and yeah, I was very surprised myself. He's tiny, isn't he? But look, they're both really small.
Buick is one of the angry ants out there as well, isn't he?
They're all so strong though, so strong in finishes, and sometimes you see with these lighter, smaller jockeys they don't have the strength, but the likes of Holly Doyle and Sylvester definitely do.
Before we move on to the Coronation Cup, then we know that you love it when we like to chat about these things. You mentioned something earlier that I want to pick up. We've talked about John Leaper now. Frankie getting back on, we think, John Leaper for the ride when it became clear that Team Ballydor were just going to rely on the Antipode favourite Bolshoi Ballet. You said you didn't like him for John Leaper.
It depends how keen John Leaper is, because John Gosden doesn't tend to put Frankie on the keen ones anymore.
I very much second this opinion.
He sends them to Rab Havlin. Martin Harley gets them, especially early on in their careers, because he knows he doesn't want to put Frankie in a bad one, because Frankie is in his 50s. He's not a spring chicken anymore. And you saw rise up last year, Method, in the Middle Park. That was extremely keen at the gates. It was so keen the saddle went up its neck, and Frankie lost control. Now, the franco nature of John Leaper does make me worry how keen he's going to be.
The buzzy's nature.
Exactly. Now, the connections don't seem to be too worried. And I'd like to quote from Adam Kirby, actually. He rode him at the equivalent of Breakfast with the Stars, said he was surprised at how well he relaxed. But if he's keen going to the start, he's not going to give Frankie a particularly nice ride. And from stall 12, once they're around that little first kink, there's a danger he could be stuck wide and very, very keen. And it's just, the recent years, Frankie generally hasn't got on that well with the Frankles at John Gosden's either. And that would be my worry. I think Adam Kirby, different style of ride, and they relax much, much better generally. It depends. If he settles well, there's a strong pace, which we're not quite so sure now the Ballydor pacemakers are out. But for me personally, I wouldn't have been saying I want Frankie on that kind of horse, even though in Group 1s he's still riding the best, and he only really rides once a week, and he's still doing the job.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course, already got a classic in the bag this season, hasn't he? So really interesting that. Okay, but Holly Dolt has taken out the second. Superlatives. How many more can we give her? It just keeps getting better for her.
Oaks ride, Sherbet Lemon will like the ground.
Sherbet Lemon, of course. We covered at Lingfield, didn't we?
I think she was worried at quick round she might not be able to get involved, but it does give her a little bit more hope for the Lingfield Oaks trial winner. Yeah,
that's interesting, isn't it? I wonder if Sherbet Lemon's coming in a little bit on the books just because Holly is on. Does she have a ride here in the Coronation Cup? She doesn't. She sits it out. We have got a hot pot, Barry Orr. No good for Haggis, Irish Admiral. Whoa, that was a stinger, wasn't it, for anyone that went in? Are they keeping the faith with Al-Azi?
Yeah, he's 248, Dave. So he had been even money, and he's 248. So that answers your question. Is a big no, a resounding no. Japan 4.5, which is 7-2. Alba Flor is the big mover in the race. Has been back at 15.0, which is 14-1 on the Betfair Exchange for a couple of £100. Into 7.0 now, which is 6-1. So that's the massive mover. That filly with Frankie Dettori in the plate, who will enjoy the ground. Mogul out to 8. Pile Driver still around the 10 mark. And Highland Chief, who's been matched at bigger prices, is into 46 now, which is 45-1. I'm going to take on Al-Azi. I know that there's 2 races that he's won, or 2 Group 3s. Now he's getting his ground, which I hadn't anticipated. So I'm going to be a price maker here as opposed to be a price taker. I think we're going to get it shorter. But just looking at some of those runs, obviously the John Porter he beat without a fight, who's let the form down since, albeit on soft ground, to Alba Flor in the Buckhound at last time out. And then he carried the penalty in Newbury in the Ashton Stakes with Thunders and the former St. Ledger winner, Logician, in there as well. None of them have ran since, but Thunders was off at a long way out that day. The third ranch hand has been second to Henry de Bromhead's Lismore since in Sandown, and gives the form some resemblance of respectability. But I think he's opposable just into a Group 1 where he's taken on proven great Group 1 performers. And I'm going to take him on, but I'm going to take him on our own terms. We're going to be a price setter here. So I'm going to look to take him on maybe at around 244 and want to take 50 quid at the backer stake. So around the 244 mark, that'll go up in the back column for someone to come in and take that price off us. And I just think the way the ground's gone and the way the track's riding now, he's a hold-up horse. So, he'll travel kindly for his jockey, for Jim Crowley, but you want to be up with it here. And Mogul, I think, is going to go off and set decent fractions. I think Japan could potentially follow him. And like we've seen in the first 2 races, it pays to be up with it. So, taking on Al-Azi at the price 244.
Thank you, Barry. Okay, so we'll get the time of the second race, the first on the round course, but hard to make up ground as ever at Epsom. It's exactly how it was. So Al-Azi's got that to prove. So Barry taking on the hot pot. He's also in stall 1, TC. Of course, the more you narrow down the field, obviously the bigger chance of success. Al-Azi or not? You're on a hat-trick, man.
Yeah, no, I like Al-Azi in here. I don't want to take him on. I thought he was a solid favourite of the day. Jim Crowley, William Haggis, they don't have too many runners together at Epsom. I just think, I tried to take him on his first start at Newbury this year, because at Goodwood last year in the Gordon Stakes, he was very disappointing. I tried to take him on, I was on this show, and he absolutely bolted up, beat without a fight. Yukon Glen was back in that field. He came out and won the Brigadier Gerard. Now, next time at Newbury in the Aston Park, again, I wasn't too keen on him, but I
weren't. I remember this.
I went with him, but I wasn't too keen. It was more I don't want to back a Thunderous or a Logician.
You poured cold water on the form straight afterwards as well.
I did, but the way he went through the race was just unmatchable by any horse in this field. And when you look at the other runners, right, Japan and Mogul, yes, they're right up there on official ratings. Mogul's definitely being campaigned to be the new Highland Reel. But he's been slightly disappointing apart from the Hong Kong Vase victory. And I don't know what to expect from him. The same is with Japan, really. He won the Ormond on his return, but last season he lost all 6 races. Maybe the step up to a mile 5.5 furlongs at Chester suited him. I'm not too sure about this trip. Pole Driver hangs left, right, centre. You don't know where he's going to run. He's got the ability, but he just doesn't run a straight line. Highland Chief's not good enough. And Albaflora is a horse I think is good enough to win a Group 1 this year. Hopefully give Ross O'Ryan his first Group 1 win. But in this race against the likes of Al-Azi, she has to prove that she can match his high level, which is, looking at an RPR of his last time out in the Aston Park of 124, it's a very high level. So I'm going to be with Al-Azi. I think Albaflora is the main danger. I just think the favourite wins. I don't know. I can't make a solid case for anything else in the race.
Well, you're on fire, which makes me feel happy because I'm of no mood to oppose Al-Azi either. Having spoken to Mr. Haggis earlier in the season, this was the horse that you knew he just had the trick. He couldn't help but tell you how much of a regard he held this horse in. As Tom mentioned, we didn't see him after a massive flop at Glorious Goodwood last year. They just didn't have him right. It's been building him back up slowly. This has been the plan throughout. I think this is the big plan of the entire season, actually. They have to give him a break at some point if he wants to go to the Arc, which looks like where they're hoping to get him. If he carries on his current trajectory, he'll be one of the favourites for that. There's the King George to think about as well at Royal Ascot. But this was the big plan. And this is his debut in Group 1 company, of course. Something really interesting about this horse, again, this is Paul Keeley that put me onto this. You chat with Keeley. So he's got a terrible record with this horse. The only time he backed him was at Goodwood, which he kind of tells you through gritted teeth. But he really has looked at every angle to try and get this horse beat.
Yeah.
The one time in Al-Azi's career he's raced with a crowd, he got beaten by Tom Collins on his debut. It's the only time he's actually faced a crowd. He has 2 handlers in the paddock. Gills just looked at the edgy angle to try and get him beat.
I think that's really searching. That is searching.
If you think that's deep, then check this out. He's also looked at the weather conditions of when the horse ran. And it was 29 degrees when he got beaten. It was hot also on his debut. Obviously, this weather's probably played right into his hands. Gills thought it might be a bit scorching. But he even looked at the weather temperatures.
I think Gills has a vendetta towards Al-Azi.
This is one that's going to sting. He thinks Japan, is just the wrong price, basically. Of course, where are you going with this, James?
Who's going to make the run-in?
Will it be Japan?
None of them in the last 6 starts, none of them had a natural running style. They've generally had something to make the pace for them. Now, that could be key. I think coming out the gates, I'll be backing whoever's in first and second after they've climbed the hill.
Right. So this is an in-running play for you?
An in-running play. I don't like Al-Azi when he was odds on the last couple of days ago because the quick round wasn't going to be ideal and he was too short a price. The problem is now he's arguably a backable price. But Albaflora destroyed without a fight and outbox 14 and 15 lengths. Yep. He only beat them 4 lengths. Now he beat them on the bridle when he could have gone miles clear. Both races, there's no strength and depth to Newbury Group 3 wins. You're kind of going on what you saw, which was a horse that could have been so much better than the opposition. But Thunderous, he hasn't really progressed since that Dante success, which was run after Derby anyway. It wasn't really a true Dante. And Logician seems to have not recovered from that life-threatening injury he had, or life-threatening illness. So what did he achieve at Newbury in 2 races? I'm not entirely sure. The times weren't great. So I've got to oppose him, but I want to know who's going to make the run, and I'm not sure.
It is a tricky race. Let's just talk about that quickly before we talk about Albaflora, who now looks like it's coming in in the market. Well, there's 2 bits of potential red herring form here. And by that, I mean, perhaps look, I'm totally prepared for people to hate this next statement and throw tomatoes at the screen. I said that on a feature show this morning. This is an informative Group 1 for older horses. Is there ever such a thing? They should really have painted their true colours by now, shouldn't they? Certainly shown them. However, Japan came back in the Ormond Stakes over a mile 5. Aidan O'Brien said this week, we ran him over the mile 5, which they have done with some of their other top horses on their comebacks, to give him confidence. Now, he beat Trushan in that race, who was giving him weight. You could be negative there, but are we looking at a potential Coronation Cup winner and a future Gold Cup winner at Royal Ascot in Trushan? Or are we just looking at two horses? Are we trying to use our imagination for that? We're going to find out after this race. Al-Azi, he beat a Dante winner and a St. Ledger winner. Or all these horses that have been not overrated, but not the Dante, James says, that we usually know. Logician, not the St. Ledger winner, we know. So does that, I don't know, we'll learn the narrative for the middle distance season after this race. It doesn't help us much, TC, that, does it?
No, not at all. And exactly what James said after that Newbury victory ahead of Thunderous and Logician. I said those exact things when I was in the studio at the time of the race, because that was what happened. The two horses in behind aren't the horses they used to be. But I was just taken by the way he cruised through.
Visually, you couldn't be any more impressed than
exactly
the words coming out from Willie Haggis, the words from Jim Crowley post-race. But top speed, he's absolute bottom, 1:22.
It wasn't Japan. A good time, but it was...
98 is out.
Rain had obviously got into the ground, but of course our time figures do allow for going allowances.
How much quicker would he have gone if Jim Crowley even asked him for an ounce of effort too?
Why is no one putting up Albaflora then? We were deeply impressed with him, weren't we?
I do think she's the main danger, I have to say.
She's supplemented Frankie Dettorion. She'll love the ground.
Oh, there's loads in her favour, but it is a big step up from what she'd done. And we're saying about an informative Group 1, it is actually because last year neither Albaflora or Al-Azi were Group 1 horses. You wouldn't have said at the end of the season they're going to be two Coronation Cup contenders. Race Becker didn't even enter for the Coronation Cup. So they have actually really kind of snuck up on us a bit. Japan and Mogul, they are frustrating. Mogul always looks fat. He never ever looks like he's fit.
They're brothers, of course, Japan and Mogul, aren't they? Someone called them Chuckle Brothers to me earlier on. This is Mogul's 8th run since he got beaten in the Derby. You're right, Highland Real was a good comparison.
Yeah.
They really have over-tried him a little bit. He's a horse that I think the public are struggling to take to, aren't they, a little bit?
When a horse is so in and out, it's really hard to grow an affinity towards them and want to back them. You don't know what Japan and what Mogul's going to turn up here. I think they're really... Look, they could easily go and win. You can see that on official ratings, being rated 120, 119. They've got the RPRs there to suggest they're more than good enough to win the Coronation Cup, but you just don't know if they're going to produce the goods, and you'd want, in Japan's case, I think he's the right price and potentially too short. I don't want to be taking 3-1 about a horse that I don't know is going to turn up.
Mogul beaten by Pile Driver at York. Beaten by Highland Chief before.
Yeah, Highland Chief's probably, we're ignoring him completely because he's from a small yard, the Paul.
He looks like he kind of lost his way. Of course, if you remember, first time out last season, he won the new 3-year-old handicap at the Royal Ascot meeting, didn't he? When held up, I know he's a horse that they like to sort of have prominent these days, I think, and he wears pieces.
Cheap pieces on for the first time. Tongue tie. He might be one. Oh, sorry, the tongue ties for the first time. He's had cheap pieces in the past. They might ride him a little bit handier. Pile Driver probably pre-race, pre-today, was definitely my selection. I know Martin Dwyer's going to lose control at some point, but he's going to probably have a rail on his left-hand side. It might just help keep him a little bit straight. His form was pretty strong last year, really. He beat Highland Chief. His Ascot win was pretty good on an easy surface. He had a busy campaign when disappointed in Ascot. He hung away his race at Newmarket on pretty quick ground. He's probably come on for that 34 days later. William Muir's not going to have horses to work with him.
They've got a very ambitious campaign marked out for him, quite rightly so as well. It's Coronation Cup, Hardwick next, then the King George, and who knows where they might take us. Breeders' Cup, you never know, do you? What a horse to own.
Oh,
yeah.
Joy.
I mean, William Muir doesn't get these horses year in, year out, does he? So you've got to go for these big races when you've got Pile Driver. And just touching back on Albaflora, we need to mention Kirsten Rausen's breeding. I mean, it's an empire now, isn't it? Middle distance fillies, unbelievable. She produces them literally every single season. She's got Alpinista, who was supposed to run in this race.
Everywhere Alpinista goes, Albaflora goes at the minute.
They were both entered in the Pinnacle and then both taken out. And now Albaflora is running here. She's got Oriental Mystique, who'll be better suited to Step Up and Trip after a run the other day. Alaes, Alavoir. There's potential for other really nice 3-year-olds. A horse called Alan Brister, one for the tracker for everyone out there, trained by Sir Mark Prescott. She's by Bobby's Kitten, only rated 63 after 3 novice runs. Typical Prescott, sprint distance up to a middle distance this season. put Alan Brister in because she'll record five, 6 victories this summer, I'm convinced. So Kirsten Rousing, yeah, year in, year out.
Yeah, and Albaflora supplemented, and the quote you got in your paper on your members section this morning from Rafe Beckett said, "I think the track will play to her strengths, and you don't often hear that about Epsom, and any rain that arrives will suit us better." Barry Orr, let's bring you back in. How's the market developing then? We're around about 10 minutes off from our first Group 1 of the day.
Yeah, 252 the favourite now. Japan was into 3-1. He's 130 now, 4.3. Albaflora support continues to come for her at 6.2 now. Mogul looks like he's going to be the bunny. He's out to 9.4, having been matched at a low around the 6.8 mark just a couple of minutes ago. So he's on the slide. Pile Driver steady away at 10, and it's 50 Highland Chief. But Alizi 2.50. Our bet, charity bet at 244, hasn't been matched yet. But we've still got 10 minutes, and this is when the bulk of the liquidity will come into the market in the next 10 minutes.
Okay, yeah, a good reminder of the charity in the month of June. Big month that it is with racing welfare, basically the great racing cycle. Go and check that out on the website. You can do that. Take part in August if you're brave enough with the jockeys that are doing it. I think it's £250 entry fee. You've got to raise all that money, but they're going to get to their target, that's for sure. Great cause, the workforce of racing. That's who we're playing for in the month of June. If you're having a great day, if you've been with TC and the Spotlight so far, maybe show them a little bit of love. You can find their website out there very easily indeed. Okay then, we are about 9 minutes away now, aren't we, from the first Group 1 of the day. I'm keeping it simple. I hope that Al-Azi shines. I have to say though, you could easily be put off by this, even at this exalted price that we were expected, by the way that the track's played in the first 2 races. Stall 1, it's no obvious pace, is it?
That's the big issue, I think, because normally you can have a little pace map. You can kind of know with these older horses who's going to be sat where. I ain't got any idea. I think Ballydoyle will probably use one of theirs as a pacemaker, perhaps, which is going to suit them.
I think the lack of pace is a plus for Al-Azi in this field. Because
he's the one with the real turn of foot, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's not going to be 6-7 lengths behind the leader like we've just seen. Corazon Espinado was 5-6 lengths clear at the top of the straight once Overright folded. I think Al-Azi is going to always be within hailing distance. If he's good enough to win, then he should come and win the race. I don't think that would be an excuse.
I think the Ballydoyle mantra is always they like these to be true run races, these Grade 1 mile-and-a-half races. They always want them to be a true run race. So one of the Ballydoyle horses is going to go off and set decent fractions.
Maybe Japan, probably.
I thought maybe Japan, Barry.
I thought Mogul.
Yeah, well, yeah, there you go. It's hard to know, isn't it? Well, you think maybe the second string, if we can call it that, Mogul, the second string, the brothers, of course, top grade winner.
See, that's the thing. Right. You're not going to dismiss it. The other jockeys aren't going to dismiss it as just a pacemaker, are they?
Yeah, no.
Whichever one of the Ballydoyle horses go off.
Exactly that. And of course, they only Bolshoi Bally in the Derby tomorrow, so they'll be relying on absolutely. Pacemakers, actually, it's a great point that Barry makes. Pacemakers used to be so trendy for Ballydoyle, didn't they? And in recent years, they have pulled them back a little bit, have scaled back slightly.
Winning occasionally.
Yeah, they keep spoiling the party.
We don't want that happening again.
That is the big problem. And on a track like a pace bias like Epsom has, the risk of that happening.
These regally bred horses, yeah.
It's not good for their breeding empire. They don't want a shock winner of the Derby.
Wings of Eagles, etc.
Exactly, that's a disaster really for them. So
a Derby winner being a disaster, yeah.
Result they could possibly have had when that flashed home in front. I think they would have been crying a little bit because it's not great for their profit, which is why they're doing this, to get the stallions, get the superstars.
Yeah.
They're straight in the national hunt ranks, and the profit's not quite so big.
We got a question for the punting club, which goes on the app tonight at 7 p.m.
Okay, a good plug there, TC. Yeah. Nice.
we got a question from a member of the public just saying, do we think the Derby or Group 1 races should limit trainers and connections to one runner? And I think that would be ludicrous. Like having a pacemaker in there, the likes of Aidan O'Brien, who's got really well-bred horses that are sent off at 100 to 1, 66 to 1, 50 to 1. Obviously not this year, but in previous seasons, they provide another angle to the race. They show why the race is so good. You can make a case for them at a huge price. Each way backers might get involved because they know this horse is going to go forward. They're like, I don't know, other trainers. John Gosden's had several runners in the race before.
Well, Frankel. He had Naval Mission.
Exactly.
As a bullet train. They were literally...
You need it.
The one, wasn't it?
And unlike in America and the likes, where you're guaranteed a fast pace because they go hard early no matter what race, over here, sometimes if you don't have a pacemaker, they crawl in the early stages and you get falsely run races. I think that would be a terrible decision.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's almost impossible to cap it, I think, isn't it? You have to do it over jumps and Where would the likes of Gig and Sound be?
Exactly. If you're a connection, so you've got two horses that both have realistic chances and relatively similar, like Japan and
a lot of
Mogul.
small fields as well, right?
And exactly, a field size as well. But if you've got Japan and Mogul, for example, owned by, running different colours, they'd have to choose which one goes in the race. It'd be a nightmare.
Who is going to lead in the Coronation Cup? You've got time to let us know. Let's get some more interaction. Who's out there? Let's have a word with David Jones comes along. Welcome along, David, and says, Mogul needs 2 or 3 runs to get into shape. It's quite straightforward for David. Had 2 now. I've got it in a treble with Maybury and Corazon's third. Ooh, Maybury. What made you pick Maybury? That was the major eye catcher, wasn't it? For William Jarvis, of course. That is a definite stakes 2-year-old.
David's having a cracking day so far. Yeah, and I agree. Mogul looked like he was in foal when he went to Maidan. He looked absolutely huge. And he's trained by Bayador, so they tried their best, but clearly he's a hard one to get fit, and it does probably take him 3 or 4 runs to be at his peak.
David, you are absolutely right, says.
2 now, Dave. Nearly 2-1 Al-Azi on the exchange. Yeah.
Wow.
Albufora is into 9-2, having been matched at 14-1. That's the best back horse of the weekend. There won't be a better back horse than Albuflora, that's for sure.
Supplemented Barry. It can't just be the Frankie Dettora factor, can it? It can't be the Frankie factor.
Rain factor, isn't it, really?
The rain, the ground. All right, okay, so clever punters out there switching allegiance. 7-4, Al-Azi on the book. Oh, my goodness gracious me. Let's get some more out there. Great question, that, David. Yeah, and agree.
He's getting upset as
well.
agree.
Matt Gardner comes on. Oh, Al-Azi, by the way. Before I come to you, Matt, 2 handlers. Paul Keeley's right. This is the first time he's seen a crown since his debut.
Spot on, literally.
Paul Keeley has had an absolute shocker with Irish Admiral. Win, lose or draw, he's got Al-Azi right today. He does look a little bit het up. Perhaps that's why the spike is starting to happen on the exchange. Matt, what are you saying? Okay, I think Japan wins now.
2-1.
On this ground, I did think Mameto looked a slam dunk in the 5-10. Not so sure now. Okay, Matt. Like lots of punters out there scratching your heads. All these selections that we had. James, you've changed your mind on a couple. Dubai Fountain, you've jumped on.
That's my each way nap, I suppose, of the day. Tom's left me behind, flying along this afternoon. But yeah,
still time, trust me.
What
goes up must come down.
Very true.
But this race is definitely one I'm absolutely clueless about, because the pace is going to be key. And looking at Al-Azi, lay, push up.
He's a heavy ground winner, of course, Japan. So Matt's been looking at that and thinking, look, he's just going to grind it out. I'll tell you what. Fingers on the buzzer to the sportsbook, Barry, for Trushan in the Gold Cup if Japan does serve up something special here. Who, of course, gave him weight at Chester and a real fright.
Yeah, very much so. Japan now 8-7-2, so he's not. Albufora could convince him to go off second favourite here. Would you believe?
Wow.
Favourites out to 2-1 Al-Easy, out to over 2-1 at 3-0-5. So obviously he's been a bit of a boy with Jim going down to the start. He seems to be getting a bit warm around the neck and that. But yeah, Albufora potentially could go off second favourite. Having said that, Japan just hardening again into 3-1.
Muggy weather, as we call it over here in Britain. They're all sweating up a little bit. Mogul looked terrible there.
Mogul as well.
So look, okay. Could we see a shock? 8-1 at the start of the day. She's been supplemented. Albufora, massive gamble. How impressive was she at Ascot? Who else have we got? Thanks, Matt, for your comment. Commander von Roerich comes on and says Japan will dig and show how hard he is. Oh, I mean, hardness is not really, resolution is not necessarily what I would put next to Japan.
No, we had that, as Aidan said, a confidence boosting win last time. That might just help him along. He was footsore, wasn't he, when he came out?
He never won first time out before, Eddie, but I guess that was it was a different class drop.
And Trushan
giving him the weight.
Tripped short of his best as well. Yeah. Highland Chief was a little nibble for him. He went into a shorter price there.
Love it, highly. If Highland Chief ran well for Ollie Cole, friend of the show, try and get Ollie back on. Commander, okay, Japan. Let's hope you hoist the flag for you then. And Ginger Joe's Racing Show comes on and says, Pile Driver will do for me. What are we worried about with Pile? What does Pile Driver need to show today, James? He needs to show a straight line.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what you would think about Epsom, is it?
No, but the problem is he just keeps losing control. But he still won quite a few races, even doing that. Even at York, he hit the front.
A lot of people not that happy with Martin Dwyer in the final furlong at St Ledger, which again, and Martin, we're talking about a classic winning jockey here, and it's just a trait of the horse now, TC, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's a trend that ever since he's ran in the Derby back in last season. Before that, he was dead straight. as an arrow in all of his races. Ran in the Derby, finished 11th behind Serpentine. Since then, 4 starts, wayward, left, right. It's not that he just hangs one direction.
No,
either.
you can't know exactly what he's going to do. That's the worst thing when you're riding him.
Yeah.
You mentioned headgear in the post.
Yeah.
The only thing I think why they haven't tried it is he can be a little bit keen, and I suppose that might just light him up. But at some point they're going to have to try and do something because he can't keep doing it. Group 1 races. Pre today, before racing started, I thought he was the obvious angle into the race. I didn't like Al Arsi. The way the rain's come, the way the money's come, Alba Flora, that form was strong. We were in the studio when she won at Ascot. And
we were impressed, weren't we?
She was impressed. Rossa Ryan, 3 out, you could just see she was going to go further and further clear. And she has actually beaten Al Arsi's rivals. That distance she felt that he could have achieved, I suppose, it had been pushed out, but she actually went and did it.
She made a move at Ascot, which you picked up on, James, from a riding point of view and a tactics point of view, don't often see on the round course. It's that sort of 5 to 4, isn't it? Where she sided through the pack.
And she stays in mile 6. She stays further. I've got to respect the money. And like I say, it's just that pace angle. I'll be back in whatever's first and second after 3 furlongs. Just go that way in the in-running bet because we've seen today such an advantage to kick off tap in the corner. I'm not entirely convinced who that duo is going to be.
She's by Muharar, isn't she, Alba? One of my favourite sprinters.
Champion sprinter.
He does throw up horses.
His offspring are generally not that bright. They take a little while to get going. But once they find their feed, they do
Slow
actually
learners.
a lot further. Than
He took a little while to kick into his 3-year-old career, didn't he? OK, there we are. Let's hope we've answered all your questions. This is what you get here on Racing Post Live. You won't find a preview like it. I can assure you of that. And the winners, they are coming your way. Let's hope Tom Collins makes it 3 out of 3. Well, Al Arsi, I'm with him. Barry, taking him on. James, not so sure. Going to have a little poke in running. Al Arsi just has a little rare in the gates, but they're off and fine. Good luck in the 310, the Coronation Cup then. Who will take it on? OK. It looks, Frankie. Well, is he the greatest front-running jockey of all time? He's up there. But there is some pace on because Martin Dwyer, he's obviously looked and thought there's a lack of pace I want to go on. David Probert, Highland Chief. We've got some pace in the race. If you're on Al Arsi, that's got to be a good thing, isn't it? We're keeping our eyes on the real market developing before your very eyes. Japan sits in midfield. Mogul out the back. Al Arsi as expected. Drop anchor in last. TC, are you happy?
Well, he's settled nicely. It looked like we didn't know who was going to go on, but there was early scrimmaging, wasn't there? 3 of them wanted to go forward. Highland Chiefs gained the early advantage, and Al Arsi settled a lot better than you might have anticipated, having seen him in the prelims. I think if you're on any of the 4 favourites, maybe Alba Flora is not in the ideal position, 2 or 3 off the rail, but the others are in perfect position against going Indian file back in the field, settled nicely.
William Haggis always says, Mr. Millman, that it's the start of the race for Al Arsi that's absolute key. The first half, second half, he'll take care of himself. Are you happy with him?
No, he's last place. He's still been a little bit keen. He's not in the right place to be. Highland Chief, he's got it.
Would you back the one in front? In running at 26?
I would have backed him at 36s when he got going. He's now 28. So I'd back him now and then put 10 in to lay off at some point.
Pile driver giving him a little bit of love.
He's making his move now on pile driver.
Yeah, there we go then. Okay.
Racing early, aren't they?
This is an aggressive move then, and Frankie's alive to it as well. Jim's Carley's now about 10 lengths off because Martin Dwyer senses victory on pile driver, takes Highland Chief's measure. Frankie goes with him though, and Alba Flora herself hasn't quite dropped ahead yet. I'll tell you what, the 2 Ballydoyle brothers, they are in pole position, aren't they? If it collapses.
Favourites in the 6 to 4.
Now Al Arsi is showing what he's absolutely got. Here he comes making his move. This is where we'll see whether we've got a Rolls Royce or indeed a Skoda engine under that bonnet. Let's find out. OK then.
Evens Al Arsi.
Evens Al Arsi as he starts scything through the pack. Pole driver, he's off the bridle. Alba Flora not looking that happy. Highland Chief coming back. Mogul's run an absolute shocker. Al Arsi, what's he got then, guys? What are we thinking, James?
Nothing.
Still nothing there. Pile driver then. The one to catch. We saw last year.
Come on, Jim.
I'll tell you what, Al Arsi, he is so classy, this horse. He's doing absolutely everything against the trends. Will he get, is he going to pick him up? Now we're going to find out. Pile driver running on air. It's between these 2. Japan sunk today. Al Arsi comes and takes the measure of Pile driver. They're getting tight. Pile driver wants a little bit more. This is a ding-dong all the way. What's Al Arsi got under the bonnet? Pile driver, Martin Dwyer, not too, keeping too straight. Oh, it's going to be good. Pile driver gets back up on the line. Just sees off Al Arsi. It was a scrimmage. You must have thought you had it out there if you're on the favourite. Martin Dwyer will be absolutely delighted by that. Thank goodness he had a rail to run against, Mr. Millman.
Not the rail, he had Al Arsi to run against. That actually probably helped him a lot because he couldn't go anywhere. He was stuck in the pocket. Al-Azi picked up much better than I thought he was, because he was right at the back of the field. Martin Dwyer, you could argue he's won it by kicking on 5 out. It made it messy and actually brought Al-Azi into the race. But he's a very talented horse, and he'd beaten good horses last year. Small yard, fair play to him. He ran straight because he had nowhere to go today.
TC, we thought we had
Yeah,
that,
he's
didn't we?
bang up on the rail. He even had a look across a furlong and a half out, didn't he? He had a look across at Al-Azi. He just had a little think about it. But at 101, the basement price on the Betfair Exchange, 99 to 1 on, 458 quid. 1,800 quid at 50 to 1 on, at 33 to 1 on, 12 grand. 25 to 1 on 2 grand, 20 to 1 on 2 grand, 16 to 1 on 2 grand, all the way on Al-Azi. It looked home and hose, didn't he, when he came with that run? But the winner hit a high of 80 in running, 8-0. But what a great ride by Martin Dwyer, turning into the straight after coming down Tottenham Corner. That's what won it for him, and he bagged that rail, and that's made all the difference.
And another horse that's prominent has won. Didn't it look all over TC though, like Al-Azi was going to get up? He's run down the Camber, Al-Azi. They've come close together. He's definitely got his head in front.
I think he went half a length in front. And I think Martin Dwyer won the race at the top of the straight. When kicking for home, what he did was manage to get across to the rail. So he knew the horse couldn't hang left, which just meant he could hang right. He then didn't touch Pile Driver with the whip until Al-Azi came alongside. He looked briefly unbalanced, Pile Driver, when Martin Dwyer gave him his first hit with the whip. But look, as soon as Al-Azi was there, Pile Driver just ran a straight line. And we said beforehand, he has the talent to win. It's just whether he was going to run straight or not.
And to be fair, we're just seeing the head on.
Going away to finish, was he?
Yeah, he was well on top in the end. And Martin Dwyer's waiting and waiting and waiting. He's not going for everything, is he?
No, exactly.
On the head on.
He was waiting until Al-Azi came alongside.
He's what you call pushing him out. That's
Watch when he gives him a smack just
down
here.
from riding, you know.
He looks briefly unbalanced. You'll see just now.
Yes, he does. I mean,
Look,
neither of them are in
rail.
love with that track, are they? I don't think.
Al-Azi 3 out, I thought he was stuffed because Jim actually had to give him a good niggle. And to be fair to him, he has picked up very well. I think on a flatter track, more conventional style, he's still run well. But yeah.
It's also not a case that he didn't stay. He's got form over further, and the front two have drawn clear of Japan. It's just Pile Driver has stayed
Pile
better.
Driver is wobbling all up that little straight, but luckily there's enough space.
Yeah, either side.
The Coronation Cup then goes the way of Pile Driver and Martin Dwyer. He was a horse that you all loved last year. Tom Segal kept getting him right, didn't he? Again, one of the favourites for the St Ledger. The gloss had come off slightly, needed it back at Newmarket. We were worried about him keeping a straight conveyance. He was the meat in the sandwich there. They come close together. Is he out battled, Al-Azi?
I think potentially. If I was Jim Crowley, I'd have stayed further away. But I know this is Epsom, and you can't necessarily
He
control
ran down the
camber.
camber though, James, didn't he? I think he
He wasn't
Jim
making
angle him
life
down?
easy for him. I think he pulled him out wide initially. I think he felt he was just going to sail on by.
Yeah.
If he could ride the race again, yes, I think he's going to keep a bigger gap just because you know Pile Driver's going to wobble all over the place.
It's difficult to see. I mean, lots of people will be thinking best horse, second, okay? But you have to say the way that Pile Driver's done it, the ugly way, if you like, and he's accepted a lead, having thought about making it Martin Dwyer, clearly early doors. He couldn't take on Highland Chief, but Barry's right. That move going into the corner has ultimately won him the race, and they wanted to be handy. So he's had to work further out than Al-Azi.
Exactly, it's not an efficient ride, but he's got him in the right position. David Probert was not expecting it because he was about to take a pull and ready to kick when he wanted. And Martin Dwyer says, actually, I want to get back in front and get across to the rail.
Wow, okay, Al-Azi sunk only just. Wasn't that a ding-dong special? I heard you saying prices for the Arc, Barry.
Yeah, unchanged at 6 to 1. Pile Driver for the Hardwick, and introduced into the Arc betting at 33 to 1.
Okay, looks about right, doesn't it? But he is a horse that keeps surprising. A dream horse to own, and great to see Willie Muir and the team get another Group 1 in the bag. That's absolutely fantastic. Let's pick of the bones out of the form. Alba Flora, the gamble of the race.
I was disappointed.
Yeah, she wasn't given much like Pile Driver, she wasn't given a very efficient ride because they went hard early, Frankie and Martin, to try and take the pace. Highland Chief came alongside, they took a pull, then they kicked together. Alba Flora faded a lot quicker than Pile Driver, obviously, who stayed really well. But this was a big step up in class for her from listed.
She's still green a little bit, James, isn't she? Or either that or she's hanging or a little bit. She doesn't look that comfortable to me.
Yeah, Rafe Beckett seemed confident about the track. You could argue she's not handled it. Disappointing in Mogul, he's already out the TV screen. He's run an absolute shocker.
Yeah. Let's just concentrate on Alba Flora, though, a little bit. There was a moment, wasn't there, when Martin made that move. Frankie went with him, and he had a look between his legs to see, am I mad here, he was probably thinking. Are we crazy? But they were just right behind.
Well, it was crazy for Alba Flora because she's got tired, whereas you got to upgrade Pile Driver. He's going to be tricky to win these races, because I don't know how they're going to get that waywardness out of him.
You're always going to get a bit of value with Pile Driver, aren't
Mentally,
you?
Epsom actually suited him today because he's hung down.
Just had a little look there.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely. So it's hard to. I mean, what was that? His 12th start. So I don't know. Is there more?
James, is that the ideal scenario for him to have the rail?
To have the rail and a horse
whip in his left hand and a horse up sides, and that he's nowhere to go. He has to put his head down.
He physically couldn't shift like in Doncaster and the St Ledger. He had so much space he could keep on going away from the other horses, away from Galileo Chrome. He's wanting to go away from Al Arsi. Martin's actually pulling him, trying to get him in towards Al Arsi. There's some engine in the Pile Driver, and fair play to Connections. If they can straighten him out, he is a very, very good horse, because Al Arsi's travelled nicely again. I think the race has actually worked out well for him in the fact that they got racing so far out. But no, fair play. We see William Muir now jogging away. He's very happy.
Go on, Barry.
Couple of strange ones. Mogul ran no sort of race whatsoever, and the ride that Highland Chief got off David Probert was a strange one. A horse that's never really gone forward.
I suppose you're on the outside of the 6. You could see that tactics might prove beneficial. The problem was Dave couldn't kick 6 out on that horse because he knew he wasn't good enough, and Martin Dwyer said, "I'm going to actually get in front."
It was almost like it was getting a bit easy as well.
Like when they broke that time, there was a few of them vying for the pace up front. Like he could have slotted in, but it looked like he was keen to go forward on him.
I expect Connections probably said, "Look, we take a chance lead." We could all see there wasn't an obvious pacemaker. Unfortunately, I expect 3 of them. We said, "Look, if you can get the pace, take it."
And what about Japan?
He travelled nicely. I think he hit around 6-4 on Betfair Exchange. I'm sure Barry may be able to tell us what the in-running price was, but he travelled nicely. Maybe went with a bit too much enthusiasm. He didn't pick up. This is the Japan that we saw last year. He travels well and then just doesn't find in the finish. And Mogul, as I said before, is just so inconsistent. Like today, who knew if he was going to be out the back of the TV or win the race? But it clearly wasn't a going day for him. They're 2 horses that I can't back in any race.
What's Ballydor got for the Gold Cup at Ascot next month? It's a race that they usually have a hot pot in. Been a long time. Obviously, we all remember the Great Yates, of course, the king of the stayers. But I always thought that maybe Japan might have been a Gold Cup horse.
Tiger Moth is in there. Santiago,
of course, absolutely. You've got to say Santiago because he's that slow. Yes, of course. So look, he just looked like a horse that found that a bit sharp to me. Japan, I don't know. All you backers of Japan out there, let us know. Has he let you down a little bit there? He was well left behind by the first 2. Look, really good race. Guess what? Stall 1 has been defeated again.
Oh, I don't know if we can.
At Epsom.
I mean, yeah, it definitely.
Got to notch it up on the stats, TC.
It didn't cost him the race, though, did it? You know, he was in a perfect position throughout, I thought.
Let us know what you make of that then. Who will you be backing in Ding Ding round 2? Perhaps it will be the Hardwick. I don't know whether we can see Al Arsi going there now. Maybe they'll rough him off. We'll see. You'll get all your quotes at around about 6 o'clock tonight. The paper digital edition at 9 p.m. Unmissable stuff on this next 48 hours. The Racing Post will be bringing it to you fast and furious. This is Racing Post Live. We have got 2 more races coming your way. 3:45, we go back into Handicap company after this. Come on, pinpoint the front runners for us. Who are they going to be? And then, what are we? Nearly just about an hour away from the biggie, the Epsom Oaks. Could that be one for Frankie and Snowfall? Very interesting. Who are the pacemakers there? Let us know. Been great to have you on the show so far. Barry, let's get indeed the 3:45 up on the screen. We've got around about 20 minutes to go through it all. Get your trade in nice and early, please.
Yeah, HMS President is your favourite at 5.6, just ahead of Blue Cap, who's 6. He's been on a bit of a slide today now. He was matched as low as 4.0, which is 3-1. Straits of Hormuz has been quite popular. He's into 6.4, 6-8 victory chime. I'm back in the outsider of the field in the win and place market. Water's Edge with Nicola Curry, a horse that loves Windsor, has won there 3 times last season, showed a return to form last time out at the same track over a mile 2 when was beaten 2 lengths by HMS President. And I think his chances are underrepresented by his price here. He's 32 on the Betfair Exchange. So I'm going to have 25 quid on him at 32 and happy to be a price taker. And in the 4 places market, now traditionally this is a 3-place market, but you can bet as short as 2 places, 3 places or 4 places. I'm going to look to back him in the 4-place market as well, where he's currently trading at around 3-1 and have 25 quid there. There might be a little liquidity in that 4-place market at the moment. Happy to leave it up there and someone will come in and match us as we get closer to the race time and liquidity begins to improve.
Very interesting, Barry Orr going for stall 1 this time over a mile 2. You're good, don't worry about it. And that is interesting, Barry. He does look overpriced, doesn't he? If you're taking HMS President as favourite. Water's Edge, HMS President, topical winners, aren't they, on a soggy day at Epsom. And Nicola Curry, she has shown absolute skills in the saddle of some of the rides of the season last season at Windsor, wasn't it? How she got him up a couple of times at Windsor.
That is the only worry, isn't it? Because he does miss the break and he's probably going to have to make his way from the back of the field. But he ran well by an HMS President at Windsor last time. It was quite a competitive race for the grade.
It's another track where you don't want to get too far behind usually, but he just bucks the trend there, doesn't he?
Yeah, he seems to like overtaking horses. I think he was quite lucky that it had a lot of soft ground when he ran last year.
Quite a tough horse, they could turn him out quickly, couldn't they? And
Just a point. What track would you want to be too far behind at? I don't think there are actually many.
Ascot, straight track.
If
straight back at you there, TC.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean, but some tracks in particular, they seem to be more speed favouring.
Yeah,
don't they?
I agree.
That's what I think we're trying to say. All right, so Barry taking an absolute flyer with George Baker and Nicola Curry, having a much better season again, Nicola. Good to see. George Barry Association, George Baker, she loves this horse. If you like the Fav, you might want to have a saver on the big outsider. James Millman, is it still Sky Defender for you?
I don't know why it's such a big price. He's a lot bigger than Victory Chime. They're first and second, £4 turnaround in the weights. That would be my worry. He's got soft ground form. Stall 8, I imagine Friday Norton's going to be handy. Kaleidoscope's another one that's handy. And Victory Chime, who's got loads of course form, that one's handy. So that's the trio I quite like. I do not like Blue Cup. I would not want to ride him in a race. He looks a horrible ride because he really takes hold of the bit and goes right on heels of horses in front of him, and it makes the jockey's life very, very difficult. Old Ryan Moore had a horrible time in the City and Suburban when he got beaten by Victory Chime, and he looked like a proper tracker horse. But those horses, I think, can always deceive you, and he was disappointing at York last time.
I think if he hadn't run last time at Newmarket, let's face it, he seems to run a lot Sky Defender, doesn't he? Won this, of course, last season when you had to be up there for Annie Norton on. I don't think he had a great draw that day, actually, from memory. He managed to get across and they just went hammer and tongs. I think he would be shorter in the betting. He's got his form figures at Epsom are 1 and 2. You mentioned Victory Chime. That's the one I like, Victory Chime. I thought he showed a slightly different change to his game. He's also used to like to get on with it. Came from a bit far back last time. Again, I just see him being there or thereabouts. I'm with you. I thought Blue Cup would be shorter, actually, than he is now. If you go back to Blue Cup's comeback run, it was absolutely luckless. But is he just one of those horses? Sheen Murphy going to have to be really wise on this ground. TC Blue Cup.
Yeah, I've got to be with him just purely because I really fancied him last time at York in that race won by Surrey Pride. Irish Admiral was third in. He was just far too keen. That day, I don't think York really suited him either. He raced towards the unfavoured far side too. His previous effort at Epsom in the City and Suburban was just the most eye-catching run I saw that month, I think, in April.
Behind Victory Chime and Sky Defender.
Yeah, 2.5 behind Victory Chime, who won the race. I wrote the preview today in the paper for this race, and I wrote that the City and Suburban Handicap's fast becoming the main trial for this. And Victory Chime obviously won the race, following in the footsteps, hopefully, those who've backed Victory Chime of Ajman King, who did the double in 2018 and Mountain Angel in 2019. But I think Blue Cup's got every reason and every chance to overturn the form with Victory Chime and Sky Defender. Last time, he was too keen. If he's too keen again today, then just write him off because he's not going to win. He needs to settle in the early stages.
He's got a hood on now, of course.
He's got a hood on. There's plenty of pace in the field as well. I know there's been a big bias towards those that have been on the front, and there always is a big bias towards those ridden on the front at Epsom. But there are many who want to go forward. Sky Defender, Dream With Me will be forward, Victory Chime will be forward. I don't think this is a race where you should overlook those coming from off the speed. And it's a massive surprise. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't expect HMS President to be favourite.
No.
So it's got to be a ground thing.
No, I didn't at all. William Buick on for Eve Johnson Houghton, who of course had a slow start to the season, getting better now and finally showed his true colours. I say finally because he was well fancied by a lot of good judges and didn't come up to expectations, shall we say, last season all the time. There are some really interesting horses in here. Blue Cup, you're not worried about the ground, of course. Heavy ground winner in France, wasn't he? And
yeah, dead heated for in a race at Longchamp when he raced in France. I don't think that was on heavy ground. I don't think the ground's got any negative.
You can watch back that Epsom run. Was it the Great Met?
It was a City and Suburban.
City and Suburban, sorry, of course. You can watch that back on your Members Club replays, of course, for free. We get, of course, loads of content here at the Racing Post, but you've got to be in your members section to watch that. And some of you, most of you are members out there, I know, and you won't be able to. It was such painful viewing, wasn't it? It was honestly everywhere he went. Oisin Murphy managed to find some trouble. I said to you pre-show, James, that this is a race which tends to find so many of those horses out that need a little bit of luck, need to be quietly ridden into it. There was a horse called Barocco, who was the
Gwyn,
you remember him, yeah,
rider.
and he just it was like every dodgem he collided with. This is usually quite a tight race. Do you think the way that the trends are going so far that we're going to see a couple go hard and then sort of spread out a little bit? You should get a bit of room in this, is what I'm thinking.
Yep, there's a possibility. It's just he's got to conserve that energy early on. He can't afford to run Rip Keen, and I'm not quite sure why that's going to change. The hood might be a positive, but he's just looks so tricky. One that's been backed is Jed O'Keefe's, straight of Ormuz,
Holly.
Hold up horse, but dropping back in trip might be ridden a little bit handier.
Yes, it was a great quote from Jed O'Keefe in the paper and in your members section this morning. He literally just says, "Getting Holly is a great booking." Nothing about the horse at all. Of course, this ran behind Ilarab, the hugely progressive Ilarab at York at the Dante meeting, and was half fancied to run well there under Jamie Spencer and just looked very much like he needed the run. There has been some interesting money for this chap. He's got, on his best, he's capable of a mark of 92, I think, as well.
Jed O'Keefe, 0 for 23 in the last 34 days.
Could do with a winner then.
Could do with a winner.
Could do with a winner, to say the least. But Holly Doyle won't mind about that from stall 10. Expect her to be there or thereabouts. Do you think Holly will just be more, because this is a hold-up also?
Yeah, that's the thing. You've booked Holly Doyle. What weight's he got?
8 stone 12.
Yeah, normally if you're booking Holly, you're going more positive tactics, and that might be interesting. Knowing he has been running a little further recently.
Like 10 as well. He's going to have to get out early and get across, otherwise you're going to be too wide on the bend.
Fourth in this race last year behind Sky Defender for a mark of 81 was Data Protection. What's he on now? Let's have a look.
87.
So £6 higher, but could it be a quick double for William Mew and Chris Grassick, who of course just took out the Coronation Cup? David Egan taking the ride this time.
Yeah, you've got to give him a chance. Course form's always key at Epsom. You've got to give it a good point. Still 11, not the most ideal for him, but he's one that could be ridden handily. That might just play in a horse like Blue Cup's favours. If they go really quick and they just start walking and the gaps open up, but he's going to have to be a little bit of hostage to fortune there. And
he was a little bit lit up, wasn't he, at Chester on his return? He wanted to go faster, and then Nicola Curry, who was on that day, wanted it, and it screamed like a horse that had a handicap in him in not too distant future. But yeah, maybe the handicap has got him about right, hasn't it? Kaleidoscope, TC, any love for that from Mick Shannon?
I fancy Kaleidoscopic for a race earlier this year, actually. I think she finished second, behind Lottie Marie, who... Is Lottie Marie in this race? She's in a race today,
no,
isn't she?
it's Saturday. She's in
yeah.
the group fillies race, Margaret.
Yeah, she's obviously highly regarded, and she's been, like Lottie Marie's been on a great streak on the all-weather. Kaleidoscopic finished second to her at Lingfield. Last time out behind Barani Start, and then was withdrawn due to unsuitable going on good ground at Redcar, which is a bit of a weird one, given she's run on soft and good to firm in the past. But she'll have to bounce back if she's to feature here, because that Redcar run was pretty below par. I just think the Blue Cup is in the mould of Thundering Blue. I think Davin Winizia is trying to do exactly the same thing. Didn't go right last time at York. Thundering Blue won that race, the Blue Cup, bombed out in. But previously, Thundering Blue finished fifth. This was in 2018. Thundering Blue finished fifth in the Sit-in Suburban. The exact same position Blue Cup finished. They both then tackled the race at York. Thundering Blue won. Blue Cup finishes just seventh. Thundering Blue then went to the Duke of Edinburgh Ascot, and David Munizio is coming here with Blue Cup. So somewhat retrieval mission, I think.
I'm surprised they're trying Epsom again, to be honest.
Yeah, he didn't seem to necessarily handle the track.
Are you? I wasn't actually. I just thought, well, he's been so unlucky, nothing went right. They're just thinking we just need a clearer run, maybe. I don't know.
My one doubt is that nothing went right because of the track.
Horses that get beaten at the first meeting at Epsom quite often back up at this meeting. I often see it as a prep for the Derby meeting.
Well,
normally because it's been a success.
Well, perhaps.
I don't think it was a particularly successful trip, but
it was a horror story that you didn't think they'd revisit.
Yeah, possibly so. I suppose after no show, dropped a pound. Oisin Murphy on board today. He's talented. He's got the ability. I just like to say I wouldn't want to be in Oisin's boots riding him today, because I think he's going to take a pretty strong grip and make life a little bit hard. But the market, again, he's drifted a fair bit, so he's a little bit of value, like Al Arce, kept drifting. didn't quite prove value.
Okay, Oshie Murphy, I could only find one previous ride for David Manuzio before. It was somewhat surprising. It wasn't on this chap. Ryan Moore, of course, was the horror trip, wasn't it? And Will Buick last time. If he settles, you look out for that crash. Barry then, okay, fair enough. What are we? Can't be too far away, are we? Well, actually, we've still got 10 minutes to go, Barry. Who's going to go off favourite here, man?
It's a take your pick. At the top of the market with HMS President, Blue Cup and Straits of Hormuz. They're all within a couple of fractions of each other. 5.7 the HMS President, 5.9 Blue Chip, 6.2 Straits of Hormuz, and it's 6.8 Victory Chime. But anything, it's a wide open contest, Dave. It's reflected in the betting.
I'm surprised that Dream With Me is as big as he is. I've covered that race last time at Ayr. He really impressed me. He's quite a straightforward horse. He's got form on heavy ground. He cost 700 grand, this horse. You know, he could potentially still be way ahead of his mark.
I suppose he's 2 Ayr wins heading down south. More competitive. He's gone up what?
I had him down as like a Wolverton type horse. Do you know what I mean? That sort of. I thought he might get to that class. He's got a right turn of foot, this horse.
He's a clear number 1 from Team Johnson.
I think he's bred and shaped like he needs further than this trip. He made his debut last year over a mile 2. Surely that suggested they thought it was a 1.5 mile and 6 furlong kind of horse. But we'll see.
Tried it, but he's kind of it's worked coming back in trip, I suppose.
Well, Frankel, isn't he? Like I say, last 2 at Ayr have been quite impressive and beat some good horses there last time, pretty much as he likes. I just like him. From stall 5, I can see him taking a nice tactical sit in this race, and if he handles the track, I thought he would be nearer favourite than he is, around about sort of 7's mark.
He is one of a rare Johnson horse that has to take a lead, because poor Ollie Stammers rode him at Ponty and he did disappear into the distance. So I think he's a little bit, normally a Johnson one, you know, they're stride on, but I think he might want a bit of cover. But yeah, he is quite a big price, bearing in mind he's coming here on a hat-trick bid. He's won 3 of his last 4. Is there
anyone that doesn't like the Ben Curtis, Mark Johnson link-up?
It's just well.
Poetry, isn't it? It's absolutely meant to be. It's a great signing by Braveheart, that, I think. Leading all-weather jockey, started off with John Oxford, of course. He a little bit like Jim Crowley's as well. Neil Callan used to be the same for went to Hong Kong, which you've seen over there time and time again. They just tend to be in the right place. You can imagine if you gave them instructions, you knew, you know, just as you turned to walk up to the stands, that he was going to be doing everything right in the first part of the race. Go to the bar, have a drink, you know, whatever, and you come back out and you know that if the horse is good enough, Ben will give him a chance, I think. And let's face it, Franny Norton and Joe Fanning are getting younger.
They're the trio. Someone's going to have to fill those boots at some point, but they're still, both those two are riding particularly well. And obviously Ben actually keeps the association with Mystery Angel, and Franny keeps the ride on Dubai Fountain. But yeah, it's working out well. And what's Mark Johnson, 8 from 64 in the past fortnight. Still plenty of winners coming from North Yorkshire. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you always sort of tend to think, when does Braveheart wind up? But this has been a good start to the season. Absolutely. He's had some good 2-year-olds as well. Life is bright in Midland. Wow, I tell you what, it's a bit soggy out there, isn't it? Welcome along if you're just joining us, where the lights shine brightly in the Racing Post studio. RP Live with the Betfair Exchange. Myself, Dave Orton, James Millman, Tom Collins and Barry Orton. I'll tell you what, tips-wise, Tom Collins, you've nearly had the hat-trick. You arched your back a little bit. You got uncomfortable in the finish of the Coronation Cup. It didn't quite go your way. James, still want that sniff?
Yeah, well, power driver. I was confident before, knowing he was going to make the run in.
They say to never undersell yourself in James.
It's a frustrating kind of punting afternoon for quite a few people, I think. Flaming Ribs second.
I got the first one, and I've just nearly since, I think. I'll tell you what, Irish Admiral wasn't that absolutely terrible vision. Let's get some viewer interaction out there. How's your afternoon going? Let's have a look. Hugh Masson comes back on and says, Straits of Hormuz, win and place. Holly Doyle for the double then. Hopefully, you'll be hoping she doesn't go too far back in the run, Hugh. Good luck with Jet O'Keefe's from run. Victory Chime for me, Chris Timms, when we agree. It's usually a good place to be, and I'm with you on that. For me in the next 2 from 2 at Epsom. There's 1 on soft going. Absolutely strong form, isn't it? Matt Gardner says, I also like Victory Chime here, but a very tight race indeed. Yes, it is. We're trying to give you some help along the way. Then the one we don't like is HMS President, guys, isn't it, James? So it looks like it's just going to edge favouritism.
Yeah, I wouldn't not like him, but he got beaten quite a few similar races last campaign, didn't he? Second to Surrey Pride, 4th to Tom Collins for To Make It Rain, just coming up short. Yes, he got a win. That was back into a Class 4 step up in grade, but maybe just confidence boosting win has got him back on the right track. It's a very open race. I think it's hard to have any strong convictions. I'm just shocked. Sorry, Sky Defender's a huge price, 14-1. Last year's winner, second, £4 better off a Victory Chime.
22-1 when he won it last year, so don't let that put you off.
From stall 16 as well.
I thought he had a bad draw. That's right. I can seem to remember it now. Outright favourites in this race. We've had 3. Who can remember Gatewood winning for John Gosden in the Strawberries colours, of course. Adgeman King for Rog Varian and Mountain Angel, of course. Subsequent Royal Ascot winner as well. So outright favourites can be done. Who's going to go off favourite? That's the question. Let us know your Oaks selections. We've got plenty of time before the big one coming up in just under an hour now. The Oaks we will have a new queen of the turf. Remind us quick selections again for that before we go on record with them.
Zayada is my selection. I want to take on the favourite. I think Santa Barbara's got plenty to prove, and Jim Crowley and Roger Varian, although drawn, looking at trends poorly, I think Jim Crowley's going to get a good sit on Zayada.
James Millman.
Dubai Fountain. Each way angle for me. I think she's going to run a solid race from a...
Sod's Law is the biggest rule of playing
ride.
The horse racing game, isn't it? So it's a bit like Graham Rodway. If he jumps off one and says this is going to win and it comes second, everyone's like, we knew.
Stall 1, I can't be following in stall 1. But
I'm with you.
That's just the interesting angle, and we've seen it all previews, haven't we?
Yeah.
Derby previews. Our third realm, what I quite like for that, he's in stall 2. It's not ideal from there.
Never won the Derby, stall 2, ever. That's just bizarre,
I don't know what it is about stall 2. Never won the Derby over here. Only 6 winners since 1900 in the Kentucky Derby. Like, why?
That makes less sense, a Kentucky Derby. Like,
you think there's some sort of I don't know, voodoo on it or something?
Stall 1, I think there's been 3 winners, but it's similar to Epsom insofar as this was with the old gate. If they break in a straight line, they go into the rail. So I don't know why stall 2 though. There's been more winners from stall 1 in both the Derby and Kentucky. Yeah,
if you're wondering why we don't like the low numbers over mile 4 in big fields at Epsom, it's James, because you have to make the angle and go uphill, don't they?
Well,
actually,
get across. Your one's drawn higher in effect on the inside, that first little kink, and then you come right across to the far side. And if you are wide as such from stall 1 or stall 2, you're going to hit the rail, and generally you've got to take a pull or be really positive, and you've been really positive uphill, so you're not using your energy efficiently compared to your rivals. So it's just you've got to work that a bit harder. We saw Secret Gesture stall 1, got beat by Talent in stall 3, cost a lot of punters that day. Legatissimo, stall 1.
Saxon Warrior.
Yeah, so they go close. It's just that use of energy, it's not been quite as efficient as the horses that are drawn a little bit higher, and the higher draw definitely is better than those stuck very, very low.
Yeah, not a problem over mile 2. Let's see if stall 1 has taken this out. It has. Imshivala for Richard Fahey in 2016. In fact, no stalls in this, absolutely fine. Just one of those weird things, but you've got to use up a lot of petrol if you're drawn low. OK, Barry Orr, we're 3 minutes away from the race. Are we going to have an outright favourite yet?
Yeah, Blue Cup is your favourite now at 6.2, just ahead of HMS President at 6.4, 6 strengths of Hamuz, 7 Victory Chime, some money for Kaleidoscope into 10 now. Haven't been 16 the last time we spoke. A match at a high of 21 as well, that Kaleidoscope. So that's half the price with David Probert.
OK, so yeah.
Running angle, I'd say, with Kaleidoscope. Generally a pretty solid front runner.
Yeah, that's 3 of us that managed to call it Kaleidoscope, and Tom Collins quite rightly said it's kaleidoscopic. The temptation to call it Kaleidoscope, quite right, but we'll be expecting Dave Probert, and maybe not quite doing what he did in Ireland Chief, to be up there quickly. So Blue Cup, the original favourite when the weights and entries came out for this earlier in the week, and he would look like he was going to come back. Be surprised if he didn't go off favourite. Looks like he's found his way there again. TC, what don't you want to see then from Blue Cup at early doors? Head in the air, I guess?
Yeah, head in the air, reefing and tugging, Machine Murphy's arms out. Basically, he could be a decent in-play bet, after a furlong. If he's settled nicely, yes, the price is going to collapse slightly. You're not going to get the same, what is he now, 6.2 on the Betfair Exchange. You might get 5, 4-1, that is, about him after a furlong if he's settled nicely, because he is the horse that he's the one to beat in the race. Based on his Sandown victory last year, it's just it's factored into his price that he may pull early.
A little bit like Al say, he is getting quite warm at the start.
Yeah.
The other Willie Muir on it, Data Protection.
He's refused to race once before Data Protection, so he's always had
you don't see that often, do you, James? A horse getting loaded without his jockey?
Not experienced handicappers, because normally you've kind of gotten them out of that bad habit. This one...
He looks very mulish.
Yes, mulish is the word. They are inching him closer, but when those gates open, I'm not entirely convinced he's going to really want to jump out and use himself because he's really digging right in data protection. And David Egan is
He's 9.4 on the exchange. There has been a few quid for him.
Yeah, well, it's he's hit the frame in this race before he lights. Epsom, good comeback run. Willie Muir and Chris Krasick took out the Group 1. You'd expect him to be solid, Barry, wouldn't you? But yeah, I think they'll be covering themselves in champagne. Then all of a sudden going, hang on a minute, is that him playing up at the stalls again? Amazing what half an hour racing could do.
They're going to win the battle, but it's painful to watch.
Yeah, okay, so this is holding us up a little bit.
You want the French handlers there, do you? The French handlers are just... Two of them,
they're generally a bit bigger, stronger. Yes, they do just heave them in.
They're interesting characters, the French stall handlers, aren't they? They go on strike and everything.
They didn't help me when my horse I rode in France once, and it was messing about. They just left me there. Didn't make any effort to try and give me a hand with a British lad.
Roast beef can sort himself out.
Exactly, I was just neglected, left to suffer.
Ross Burf, quite right indeed. All right, so we've got the ex-French Blue Cup, who doesn't need any French handlers. Data protection is in. That's the good thing to say, and it's good to. I'm definitely a fan of that type of horse going in first, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's so annoying when they get the ticket on a horse that plays up at the stall. It's not fair on the others.
Yeah, in fairness, exactly, because you're putting all the others at disadvantage.
You can get a ticket, can't you, for people that don't know?
3 times if you get a ticket, and you've got to do a stall.
How do you apply for a ticket?
Just fill in the form.
You have to post it off, do you, or something like that? Or?
No, it is all email. But yeah, you notice a lot of the Godolphin horses now take tickets and go in very late.
Charlie Appleby's a big fan, isn't he? Yeah.
Which is it really fair? Question mark.
I know you're not sure of
and what after 3 tickets after 3 concessions, James, you have to do a stalls test again.
You've got to go to the track and do a stalls test and prove that you can stand there for 2 minutes. But again, it's like a non-race day, quieter environment, just you in the stalls. I
bet you've tweeted about that, haven't you? I bet that because the things do get your goat on Twitter, James.
I get annoyed for sure.
You've got a lot of followers. You're about to have a few more, I think, because you do tell it how it is.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Except Sky Defender can get me back on track.
Well, OK, Sky Defender it is for James. Blue Cup for TC. The outsider, Water's Edge for Barry, and I'm on Victory Chime. And Blue Cup, I tell you what, TC, he's lost about 2 or 3 out the gates. Oisin Murphy probably not going to be too worried about that. He would have been a back marker. Up front then, we said he'd adopt a decent position. Didn't think he'd lead. It's Dream With Me, the progressive Dream With Me. Upsides, David Egan and Data Protection. Looks like he wants the lead. He's a little bit keen. Kaleidoscopic is up there. Victory Chime is up there, along with old rival Sky Defender. No surprise there. Looks like they're going a decent pace, James Millman.
Going quick, and Blue Cap has actually settled quite nicely for Oisin, but he is behind Water's Edge, and you rarely see him have horses behind him. Holly, she's holding her horse up or can't go to pace.
Yes, indeed. So straight to forward moves out there. Water's Edge, we knew Barry's pick was going to be doing that. HMS President, lots of money for him. He's in midfield. TC, how are you feeling about the Cup of Blue right now?
Yeah, they went hard early. They seemed to steady up, come around the top of the bend there, and Oisin had to quickly take a grab. But I like the fact he's staying off the rail. It shows they're going to come wide, which should eliminate traffic problems. Now they're quickening on the front end.
And this is what I meant, James. They're taking each other on, so there shouldn't really be any in-running issues here so much.
There shouldn't be if he can make the ground up. He's still a good 5-6 lengths off the main pack, but a duo, they've kicked on.
This is what we saw earlier with Corazon Espinado and Overwrite, and Corazon Espinado held on, so maybe one of these two's got the advantage, or have they emptied the tanks early?
They've gone well clear then, rounding Tatton Corner and into the bend. It's the best place at Epsom to watch a race going round the corner.
Dream With Me.
Coming stand
Dream
side.
With Me. They're coming stand side. Remarkable for the first time. Will we see this tomorrow, even though it's a dry day? Data Protection just taking his measure now, though. Water's Edge is absolutely flying. Barry getting excited. Victory Chime filling his lungs. I tell you what, Barry,
Come on, Oisin.
you might well have this. Oisin Murphy, he's niggling away, cajoling. He wants a bit of trouble, doesn't he? Water's Edge is going to take it up, though, I think, in a minute. Here comes Blue Cup, though. Could he spoil the party? Victory Chime's still there. He knows how to win. Wow, what a race this is. Data Protection backs out of it. Blue Cup, last to first. Unbelievable scenes for the first time here on Racing Post Live today. Fav has absolutely hosed up, doing what you don't want to do at Epsom. How ahead of his mark was he? What a good thing beaten he was at the first meeting. Oisin Murphy missed the kick, 4 lengths off the pace. Remarkable run there. David Menuisier will be absolutely over the moon. Got his pick of handicaps. John Smith's Cup, something like that. Wolverton will get the panel's pick after we get the story of the race from Barry Orr. I imagine he went big at some point.
Yeah, just looking through it here, Blue Cup hit a high of 7.2, Dave, so not too big. And Data Protection hit a low of 3.3.
Wow.
Also in there, Water's Edge, that threatened on the outside for just a couple of strides, hit a low at 3.1, so 2-1 for him. Dream With Me hit a low at 2.46, 6-4. So plenty of in-running news there, but very convincing winner, wasn't he?
Yeah, well done.
BSP at 5.85.
Well done to Tom Collins and to Barry Orr, who of course had Water's Edge in the foreplay. I think he got fourth, didn't he, Barry? That was a really good run, man. And she has had to do it the hard way, if you like, James, in so much that she's been away from the rail, Nicola Curry.
Yeah, she's probably gone a little bit too early into the centre of the track. O'Sheen got the horse settled, and that was key. Coming across downside was a big plus for him, because when they do stay far side, that's when the old traffic jams occur. Whereas there's a little bit more space, because everyone wants to go as far up that stanza as possible. Horses hang down and they do give you a little bit of room. And O'Sheen in the end got there at the one pole, asked him to go, and he's quickened away nicely. Handicap, so for the future, 92. He's going to be 102, 103 on the back of that.
Are we looking at the next Thundering Blue then, TC?
Well, that's what Devon Menezia campaigned him to be, you know, and he's really hit the line powerfully. Thundering Blue was at his best over a mile 4. The step up and trip won't be a problem, I don't think, for Blue Cup. And it helped that they got racing early. I think Ashim found a bit of trouble in the straight as well, because they came across the stand side. I thought...
It's almost like he wanted a bit of trouble, I thought. He had the option to go wide, but he knew he had to get on that rail.
Some horses seem to improve for it.
That's exactly that.
And Blue Cup, I know, on his first run back at Epsom, never got a clear run, found trouble after trouble after trouble. Today he found 2 bits of traffic problems, but Ashim had plenty of time to get him out and get him into full stride, and he's ended up winning more than shade comfortably.
Do we mark up data protection somewhat? Because they have gone, I think they have gone too hard.
Way too soon. Even Victory Chime, who's very effective at this course distance, he's off the bridle very, very early. O'Sheen's happy to sit away. He knows they're going very, very quick. He's kind of got to do that, because
took a pole, didn't he, coming down the hill?
Rides.
I'll tell you what, that was fantastic, wasn't it? Well done. If you're following TC today, you're having a great run. Just Al Arzi nutted, otherwise that would have been a 4-timer. And if you kept the faith, that's the question. I'll tell you what, Water's Edge, I'm really taken by that run. Amazing to think that Nicola Curry might have gone that bit too soon down the middle. But what do you do if you're on? I mean, OK, so if you're in this race, James, and 2 are kicking on, and you're in the chasing pack, and you're on a hold-up horse that likes to get there through horses, she had to she probably thinks, well, they're going to keep going. They have so far on the card.
Exactly. That's the problem, isn't it? Because you look at the previous races, and you don't want to be too far away. They've kicked, 8 lengths ahead of the third and the fourth?
That
does suggest they've gone a bit
Windsor
too
next
soon.
week for her.
You think so?
Windsor next week or the week after, the Monday before Royal Ascot. That's where you'll see that horse next.
There you
Water's
go.
Edge.
That's what you want, isn't it? A nice
class 4 as well.
Bank boosting Water's Edge then on the Monday the 12th, isn't it? I think it is. But no, can't be the what is it? The 14th, of course it is. 15th we start off, don't we? Thanks, Barry Orr out there. There were a couple of disappointments when the HMS President, of course, should really have been finishing ahead of Water's Edge, if you believe that. Straits of Ormuz too far back.
Little bit, but
really
it was ahead of Blue Cap. No real excuses, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sky Defender, round like the market, basically pulled up a little bit like both my selections in the 2 handicaps. They've not figured at all, but fair play to Tom. He's really banging in the winners.
Yes, TC having a great day there. So quelle surprise, a lot of you will be saying out there. OK, we have got 40 minutes for the Epsom Oaks, but Blue Cup beats Victory Chime. Another really good run from that. 1-1-2 now. He is at Epsom. He'll be back there later in the season. Data protection. Mark him up a little bit in third for those that were playing in the 4-place market. If you went in with Barry, don't worry. Water's Edge, really big run in 4th there. OK, stand side it is then. Will we be seeing that in the Epsom Oaks? My Lord, do you remember when they last came over stand side? I think I do in an Epsom Oaks.
It happens more regularly in the Oaks than the Derby, though.
I remember one year that Kazia saw off Islington. Frankie Dettori and Kieran Fallon, 2 absolute world-class.
Qualify, she came up the stand side, did she?
Qualified, do you remember that? Absolute sinker, wasn't it? That in the, for punters out there. Well, the guys are clicking away and trying to find out the last time they did it. It's pretty certain now, to my eye, that they will be wanting that stand side rail. Only yesterday we were expecting fast ground. Funny old weather game this, isn't it, we play? What's up with those meteorologists out there? I do not know. What price then Santa Barbara, Barry Orr? She's been a little bit uneasy?
No, she's 3.5, bang on 5-2 on the Betfair Exchange. Yeah, Zayad, that is 7.0, 8-4 Snowfall, Dubai Fenton 9.4. They're all the horses that there's money for. Dubai Fenton has been as big as 16.5. Snowfall as big as 9. Tiona's a bit of a negative. That was matched at 6.8. That's out to 12.5 now. Zayeda as well, a bit of a negative, has been as low as 5.5, is out to 7. But I thought that Santa Barbara's run in the Guineas was a very, very good run indeed for a horse. It was only second time on the racetrack. It was only her second time away from Ballydoyle. Obviously her first time travelling to the UK. She's only beaten, a length and a quarter, a little over that in fourth. I think she'll improve significantly for that run. They always said that while she went off favourite in the Guineas, that it was going to be a long season for her, and she wasn't fully tuned up for that. So I'm going to back her in the win market. I know it's on reputation. What she went off favourite in the Guineas on reputation, but I thought she backed it up by finishing fourth. Step up and trip. She's by Camelot. The step up and trip will really suit her. And I'm happy to back her just in the win market, though, at 5-2, and have 50 quid on her in the win market. The other horse I like is the horse that finished second in the Guineas, Saffron Beach. And I think she will stay. I think it'd be great for Jane Chappenheim. And I'm going to back her in the place market, just place only. And the 4-place market, please, Tom. Going to back her. The additional place, obviously, it's it's the win. 2 places, 3 places are the additional place in the 4th place market. She's about a 2-to-1 chance, and we'll have 50 quid on her in the place market as well. So they're the 2 exchange plays here. Santa Barbara, I thought, was the most likely winner off the back of that run in the Guineas, and Saffron Beach, if she stays, I think she'll definitely place.
Interesting. Classic form then. In a classic for Barry Orr then. Look to the Guineas, says Barry, and we'll get the panel's dissection of those selections very shortly indeed. It's actually good to hear some love for Santa Barbara. She was a massive winter gamble, wasn't she? 33s into, I don't know, was it 9 to 4 or something, whatever. She went on probably even shorter, wasn't it, for the Guineas, where she looked very green, James Millman. Will she stay? That's the big question. The ground, well, again, it's going to make it more testing, isn't it?
It is going to make it more testing. There's a little bit of speed in her pedigree. Camelot himself obviously won the Derby, and he's produced quite a few slow stayers, isn't he, really? So I think she should.
Yes.
She has that awkward Camelot head carriage, but I thought Ryan gave her what sounds crazy, but a bit of an educational ride in the 1,000 Guineas, as though it certainly was not the be-all and end-all, and she should come on from that. And the classic form, I think, is much stronger than the trials form. I think she's the right favourite. I just probably wouldn't be backing her.
With 5 runners in the race, so she's got 4 teammates, if you like, with her. Does that dilute your confidence a little bit, considering Bolshoi Bally's just the sole representative tomorrow, which means they must be very confident of a massive run from that chap?
A little bit. I just say with the mares or the fillies, it doesn't matter quite so much for the breeding if it's an outsider one that might cause a surprise. They don't have to be unbeaten as such, whereas for the stallion careers, they don't really want them to have a black mark against them as such. So I think I'm not quite so worried. They do tend to put a fair few fillies in. And she did get beaten in 1,000 Guineas. So they've got to see she's not a solid love or anything like that, where she's got all that experience in the book. I
think she'll go short at some point, TC, don't you? These O'Brien number ones, if you like, with Ryan Moore on, they tend to come there. I'm trying to think who was second to Enable. I'm trying to remember. I'm sure James will be clicking away and finding out.
Second to Enable.
Who was second to Enable? Sorry, I'm digressing. I should really alternate. It was Rhododendron. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
8 to 11 to beat Enable. Silly sometimes, these prices look in hindsight, I don't know. But she came there absolutely cruising, didn't quite get home. James mentions the Camelot influence. It's got to be on the Camelot influence, your hope, of course. A Derby winner himself. She is half sister to Amal Fall, winner in Order of Australia. But as the people that have dissected that have told me, it was just a soft race and straight back to Amal. He wasn't actually that good either, was he?
A mild 10 furlong form, isn't it?
A Breeders' Cup winner, not that good, we're calling him, but he wasn't exactly what we thought he might be at the start of his career. I think she'll go short at some point. What does Ryan Moore do now, looking at the way the track is riding?
Well, he's going to have to take a sit. She's not going to go forward. Maybe a mid-div, but I think she's a terrible price, personally. I really do. I don't think the 1,000 Guineas form is that good at all, unlike the lads. I thought it was a race full of non-stayers.
Mother Earth ran well in the French equivalent, didn't she? On RPRs, we rated her lower, actually, but she ran well because it was a quick turnaround.
Yeah, on RPRs, it was a step back, and I thought in the 1,000 Guineas, she won the race because Frankie gave her an A+ ride. It was a spot-on ride, kicked at the right point. I thought Saffron Beach was actually the best filly in the race, but I don't know if she's going to stay today. I don't like that form, and I really don't like the price about Santa Barbara. Now, that's not to say she can't win. I was very impressed with her.
Is she the X-factor filly in the race? Is she the
Irish
one?
Admiral. in this field.
She's
She's priced 100% on reputation. There's no
Well, I
doubt
don't know.
about
I can't have that.
it. She's a maiden winner in a Group 1.
She's only had 2 runs.
I know, exactly. So is that not on potential? Because she's not done anything
The
on
1,000
track,
Guineas form, I think, is superior to the trials. I don't think it was pretty strong 1,000 Guineas, but I think the trials are worse.
We've got a Twitter debate happening in the studio here. Let me tell you, James loves this.
The thing is, on a maiden victory, Shamie Hefner and Aroda that day said that she's probably, or could be, the best of the family. Iridessa's in the family. So on that reputation alone, she was then a huge gamble leading into the Guineas. She's a big gamble leading into this race. I know Jason Weaver, for example, on ITV, as soon as the 1,000 Guineas was run, said Santa Barbara was a banker for the Oaks.
She looked. It looked like the obvious place to go, didn't it? She could have gone to the Curragh, of course.
I wasn't impressed. She stayed on.
Very green, though, wasn't she?
She was.
She found herself a little bit marooned, and to think that Frankie Dettori took a lead off her, that's...
She didn't scream to me, Oaks winner. She didn't shout, I'm going to win the Oaks in this race. And I think it's not the best Oaks by any means, is it? But there is some strength in depth. I preferred the run of Zayada in the Cheshire Oaks, purely because she managed to prove her stamina. She proved that she can handle a left-handed tight track with a camber coming down the hill as well. I thought that was potentially the best race leading up to this, rather than the Guineas. And Dubai Fountain and Zayada were the two I focused in on, leaning towards Zayada, although the draw was clearly negative.
Well, the Chester Oaks has recently, James, become the certainly after Enable, it became a very fashionable race again, didn't it? And you think that form will be upheld before we go down to TC, who has a differing opinion. Dubai Fountain, then, is she still, according to the handicapper, she is just the best horse in the race, even though she came from a trial rather than a classic. Saffron Beach just £1 below it, according to the handicapper.
Yeah, I just think she's solid. She's had loads of experience. You know she's going to be relatively handy. 4th in the Fillies Mart end of the campaign behind Pretty Gorgeous, and she beat Zayada. Now, she beat Zayada because she was better placed. And if they were in a line together at the 2-pole, I think Zayada's the better filly. But still 6, Dubai Fountain, still 1 Zayada. Zayada's slow starting profile. There was 3 lengths between them at 2 out. She got beat a length and she was unlucky, Zayada. But I think once again there's going to be maybe 5 lengths between them around Tottenham Corner. Is she going to be able to get it back? And I'm not too sure. So I think Santa Barbara is our most likely winner, but I'm going to go Dubai Fountain each way. I'll be surprised if she wasn't in the 3.
She has had a lot of experience, hasn't she? Which perhaps with Mark Johnson, his style of training isn't a surprise. If you'd have told me when she won at Sandown, I think it was as a juvenile last year, that we were looking at an Oaks candidate, I'm not sure I'd have believed you. But these fillies, I think more than the colts, they can turn themselves inside out. That's why I like Snowfall. Get my tip out of the way. She reminds me a bit of Peeping Fawn. I was chatting in the office to some guys about earlier. It took her a long time. She's a Musadora winner. Long time since she had a Musadora go and follow up at Epsom. Used to happen an awful lot. But Frankie Dettori takes the ride. Would say normally second string. We saw what happened at Newmarket on the first weekend in May. He took it out on Mother Earth, of course, defeating Santa Barbara. If any horse is going to get the rail, I think it might well be Snowfall. And I thought there was a temptation straight after the Musadora to go best ride wins race. And working tight embryo fillies will reverse form in the future. Tiona, of course, comes out of that one 3rd. And Tiona looked like the sort of horse that might still be top class. But
she's just crazy.
Yeah.
And this is totally the wrong scenario for her, right? Get behind, paddle on the ground. I don't really see it with Tiona at all. But
the Hood, we saw Blue Cap, who I thought wasn't going to be a particularly nice ride. He actually settled very, very nicely in the Hood. And I think they've exercised her in at home previously, didn't have it on in the races, and they are going to try that, and David Egan gets back on board. She's got the ability there.
I just think she's coming right, and Aidan O'Brien is a master, as we know, of all things, but especially to get these fillies absolutely right as they mature. And I just think I think she's definitely
Just why was she so average last year?
That's the question.
She followed in the hoof prints of luck.
She was well thought of early. If you look at her SPs in her race, she was well thought of. And then she sort of lost her way in a mile. She just, I don't know, but she didn't show over the mile 3. She wasn't stopping at the end of that Musadora, and it was pretty impressive to me. And anyway,
she's by Deep Impact, and she's out of a sister Confound, so staying won't be a problem for her.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely. And Deep Impact is, of course, the Japanese superstar that very nearly won. Of course, the Arc, etc. His horses don't mind a bit of cut whatsoever. In fact, he's got a 22% strike rate on heavy ground. No problems whatsoever for me. So there are the tips so far, but the main man this afternoon has been pointing you in the way of the winners. You said about an hour ago, TC, that you like Zayada. Changed your mind? Not a bit of it.
No, I'm going to stick with her. I just can't make a solid case for anything else in the race other than Dubai Fountain, who beat Zayada last time. At the prices this is, obviously you can make a case for Santa Barbara on reputation alone, but too short. Tiona, I thought in behind Snowfall in the Musidora, travelled like the best horse in the race. She missed the kick and she raced wide, and yeah, a bit of a mad filly. I don't think she'll handle the track. Snowfall was just a straightforward horse in that race. I think the second horse, the Smichael Stout Noon Star, hung badly right throughout. Snowfall kind of just won the race on merit, but at the same time the others didn't perform as we expected, and the lack of depth just further down the market is quite astounding. You've got a fair few at big prices, but the likes of Ocean Road could be interesting on just a fourth start. Sherbet Lemon won the Lingfield trial.
I thought she was the one to take out of Lingfield Derby trial because she sort of went that inside where you didn't want to be, didn't you? And
I thought that too, but
I thought she looked Ribblesdale filly to me, which is always a little bit of damning with faint praise, isn't it? But again, where's she coming out of TC?
Yeah, exactly. And the Lingfield trial probably wasn't a very strong race at all.
Almost like you could see the same happening to her again, James, can't you?
Oisin tried to get her out from stall 1 at Lingfield. He couldn't do it. And stall 2, she's probably had a lot of stalls practice and she might be a little bit sharper. But the likelihood is Carbon Copy. Although I think he'll delay the run a bit longer because she actually went from last to kind of dead heating and then just getting tired. Sherbet Lemon, Holly Doyle on board, stall 14.
Go forward?
She'll go forward. And softer ground, it's got any help.
She had a lovely sit at Lingfield, didn't she, Sherbet Lemon? Almost got the sort of run of the race, I think you can say.
I was trying to find out I was trying to work out who was going to be on the speed. Obviously, Sherbet Lemon's going to go forward. What one of the O'Briens? La Joconde maybe made the running a couple of starts in maidens last year. William Buick on board, outside gate. Mystery Angel will be up there.
Looks like Mystery Angel, definitely a supplementary. Of course, Nick Bradley and his racing team took out the first race to Woodcote. They'll be hoping for a huge race double. I think we can say that. Fev Rover, of course, took in an Irish Classic. Didn't really turn up that day, did she? She'll bounce back. Yeah, absolutely. Who else?
I think she went faster.
Dubai Fountain's never going to go
she'll be up
too
there.
far back, is she?
Yeah, she'll be second or third.
Yeah, just in behind, I imagine.
Yeah, we're expecting Snowfall definitely to be out there. Technique, of course, second over course and distance. Over slightly shorter in the Blue Ribbon trial. Didn't work out at all last time for her.
I believe she didn't win that race, by the way. I tipped her for that race, and Worko, however you pronounce the Godolphin horse, came large down the outside. I was gutted. But yeah, she didn't perform very well in Lingfield last time. We
crunched some numbers last week about the outsiders, at Ballydoyle, and how it's often a profitable angle. Of course, we had Serpentine. Yeah. Who was the other one? We had Serpentine. We had Mother Earth, of course. There was one in between that. I can't remember who, but
Qualifiers won this race at 50s as well.
So look, it can happen.
And was
the one that keeps annoying me. And I know Ross Briley, who often sits in this seat, and we'll be doing In the Know a little bit later on in the studio for you, previewing tomorrow's action. He really likes Willow.
Yeah, he's been
at the start of the season, James. This was Tom Seagal's anti-post.
Well, she was shorter.
Epsom pick. It was a dreadful comeback. Still stung by that. Everyone was like, right, let's get on this.
5-4 favourite.
Out of Peeping Fawn, who I mentioned. I think Snowfall is resembling Peeping Fawn to me. She's by American Pharaoh, who Ballydoyle are trying to make into a super sire and the Triple Crown winner. Peeping Fawn, she just kept getting better. If there was a flyer in here, maybe it's Willow.
I suppose the American Pharaoh influence, would she really be wanting soft ground? That's
exactly. And there have been a few people that have said that American Pharaohs want soft ground. I completely disagree. I think they're better on quick conditions. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I crunched those numbers on American Pharaoh.
Expert, so.
Shall we get some social interaction out there? It's about time, isn't it? As we've got, around about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes to the biggie, the Epsom Oaks. Kinky Cadet comes up. You've been following TC, no doubt. I'm on Santa Barbara. And Max Sweeney anti-post for the Oaks and the Derby. Army man, TC?
Army man.
Military man?
I'm not, but I do love an army film.
You would never get any further than cadet, though, let's face it.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely no chance, would you? Max Sweeney, I'm expecting, surely now, Barry Orr, the gamble is happening on McSweeney, isn't it? I said at the top of the show I expected him to crash. You said he's actually going out in the betting.
Yeah, McSweeney, he's 6.2 on the Betfair Exchange now. So, yeah, there's money for him. Yeah,
They're listening today, finally. The punters are
Someone's finally
the
listening to me.
exchanges.
Bolshoi Ballet's out to 2-1. That's a drifter.
Whoa. Okay. So listen, we'll get to that in a sec. But Kinky Dick, you probably didn't want to hear that, but certainly McSweeney, we should say. Do you know what I said on the feature show this morning? I said it could have gone two ways, that name, couldn't it? McSweeney, we weren't sure. It is McSweeney, I think.
Yeah.
You listen to Jim Bowler's trainer, but if he had the hound attitude, it would be perfectly named. What a swine!
Well, he is a little bit in the fact that he's had 3 shockers.
An Oxo horse, you're suggesting?
Well, he doesn't.
He is proper tough, though, this horse, isn't he? Nasal discharge in the excuse.
There's an excuse, but why has he run? He has run 3 poor races.
But when he gets deep ground, if you eyeball him,
The stamina.
I don't know, I think there's a bit of an iron horse about him. I might be wrong. All right. Range of opinions. Good luck then to you out there. Okay, who else joins the party? What name we've got next? Keeping it simple with Matt Gardner. Great to have you on, Matt. And you say Ziada for the Oaks. Ticks more than most on this ground. It's okay. Sure to stay at the trip. Can't be said for many. Okay, yeah. Staying should be absolutely fine, shouldn't it? I loved her as a 2-year-old. Didn't use Ziada. The market didn't always like her, and yet she kept obviously 3 from 3.
Which was odd, wasn't it? Because
Yeah.
Roger Varian horses
Normally
always
the opposite.
Yeah, almost
Absolutely.
smashed in or too
I just
short.
love the fact she's surprised them, and when a filly does that, it's great. And this would be a poignant winner, wouldn't it, this year for the late Hamdan Al Maktoum, of course, as well. Just that stall one to overcome. Can she do an oath in 1999, the last Derby winner to do that? Good luck to you, Matt. Who else have we got coming on and joining the party? Jack Worrell comes on and says, Ziada, Saffron Beach, Sherbet Lemon for me. 3 darts. Aidan O'Brien needs 5. Jack only needs 3. Saffron Beach, I'm delighted, Jack, that you've brought that up because Barry Orr thinks this will run a big race. If you look at the pedigree, on the dam side, she can't stay.
Yeah, no chance.
But
New Bay.
the sire, of course, of Bay Bridge, who we saw. Whoa, can't wait for him at Royal Ascot.
I've even managed to put him into a preview for tomorrow that's going live at 6 p.m. Bay Bridge, even though he's not running, so you'll see that.
Lovely. The sire, of course, the London Gold Cup winner, whose form we are going to see advertised in the first race tomorrow, King Frankel, second to that. If he runs well, we're looking at another Sir Michael Stout hot pot. So, look, it's all about the sire's influence, but it's also run style, isn't it? Because she does have that sort of workmanlike keep finding. I love Saffron Beach. I'm a massive fan of her. Back to when she won a second race at Newmarket last year, and Jane Chapel-Harm, she's got Bolossa as well, hasn't she?
Fantastic campaign for Jane. And I worked for Jane briefly out in Dubai. And
did you?
Wonderful lady, very, very clever lady. And both her and Adam Kirby, I hope she goes well. It's a straight mile to mile and a half. It's a big step. Just looking at Newbay, actually, he's 4 from 10 with a mile and a quarter and a mile 3 horses, and 1 from 3 with a mile and a half. So obviously he's had very few. This is his first crop, 3-year-old.
Was that a short stint in Dubai? I can't see you loving the Digglery.
I didn't particularly like the beach. I did one carnival season. I worked for the Fitchery Hayes, but there's quite a few trainers in that period, so I had 3 different.
Is it a remarkable place to work?
Yes, money, no object. I used to ride traffic guard actually most days, and he ended up being second to New Approach and the Irish champion for Jane. He's probably the best horse I rode. But yeah, Dubai is a good experience. But yeah, working for Jane, she was very relaxed, and I can see her kind of relaxed nature transfers to the horses. She does do very well. Uber cool, cracking effort the other day, bringing that back from 1,000 days. So if Jane's confident that she'll stay, it was kind of her, I think, pointing the owners towards an Oaks bid. I think it was
rather than going for the coronation, etc.
Exactly. I think they were being quite happy to wait. I know Matt Chapman actually interviewed her on an ATR, and she was like, "Well, I want to go for the Oaks. The owners are still not decided." So she's strong, and if she does, like I say, I think the 1,000 Guineas form's stronger.
If you're in Saffron Beach, the colour must have been a huge temptation, wasn't it? So, you know, that grinding finish there, she'd have loved that, wouldn't she? So maybe they're sitting on it.
This is her first time ever away from Newmarket. 4 runs, Oldham and Newmarket and Rolling Mile.
Yeah,
which
first
is interesting.
Time
but
she's
she
gone more
did
than
do
10
a bit
minutes
of
in the
work.
box.
Yeah, she did do a bit of work around Epsom. She did. They
the
did
Breakfast
school
of the
her around
Stars,
Epsom
yeah.
And she seemed to go well around it, so they seemed happy with her. But I'm sure she had the final say over the owners because they're her 2 brothers, aren't they?
Yes, indeed, and yeah, quite right. Trainer gets her own way. Turns out it's a family connection. And Adam Kirby, this would be some story for Adam, wouldn't it, if he could take this out? Of course.
Jane Chapel-Harm often runs all of her best horses at Newmarket throughout the early stages of their careers. Bolossa, we've seen this year, despite not handling the track at all really very well.
Exciting filly Bolossa, yeah.
So whenever Jane Chapel-Harm gets a first-time out runner at Newmarket, it's always worth focusing on. You're going to get a good price as well.
Okay, all right. So listen, we are 15 minutes away from the biggie then. Let us know, has it become something of an object exercise to grab the stands rail? We are expecting them to come stand side. I still can't believe I'm saying that. The weather week we have had here in Britain, it's been dry again, turned on its head. Who saw this coming? They had 8 mil on the track prior to racing. There's still been some drizzle throughout the rain as well. They put 20 mils on to keep the ground safe there. Who'd be a clerk of the course, eh? Very difficult indeed. And it just reminds me of that memory. Watch back the Cazoo-Islington matchup. Islington, you could almost argue, was the better of the two. I mean, Cazoo was a worldie, but Islington went to Breeders' Cup and things, Sir Michael Stout, and the Ballymacall, and it was who got the rail that day. Frankie got the rail, and she ground it out. And as we saw, Blue Cup, Victory Chime just went one off, let Blue Cup up. All of a sudden, we're looking at a golden highway on a soggy day.
If they race standside, it could be a positive for tomorrow, with the Derby in mind. The ground's going to quicken up slightly.
We've got that fresh ground, haven't we?
Exactly. There is a strip that's been railed off, but even the part, 4 horses width or 4 horses wide off the rail, however far they're racing today, it's a bit chewed up after the early races, and to have these later races coming wide on the standside rail could keep that ground a little bit fresher than if they race towards the fast.
Have you ever been to Oaks or Derby Day? Obviously, James.
I haven't. I've been to Epsom a few times, but not Oaks or Derby Day.
Yeah, it's mad.
I can imagine.
It's absolutely crazy. I think I last went to see a Derby, Derby Day. I'm working a lot of them, obviously, but Motivator, I was there for when the Royal Ascot Racing Club took that, and, like Simon Cowell, though, welcoming him in and stuff like that. The crazy Motivator on his day in the sun. Everyone seemed to know. I definitely didn't back him. I can't remember what I backed there, but Johnny Murtagh was on. The scrum, because you see it's obviously a top hat and tails occasion, isn't it? The gentry like to get, but yet you've got the infield, of course, where all the fairground is. You couldn't have polarising fans. I mean, just all across different spectrums. It's
arguably
mad.
The best press box as well, I'd say, that I've been to in Epsom. You can see everyone.
Let you up there, did they? Unbelievable.
Did a few race course shifts.
Not on Derby Day, though.
No,
right.
a quiet evening fixture most times, but
it's a different one for the classics.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
For the classics. It's over in the centre of the track. Yeah.
Ah, right.
There you go. So you definitely haven't been then. Absolutely. It's a tradesman's entrance for TC. Not today, however, on the show though. You're bidding to go 4 from 5, aren't you, with Ziada?
Yeah, hopefully. I'll be absolutely cursing that I didn't do them in a combination bet, if Ziada goes and wins. But it's been a good afternoon so far.
Yeah, there you go. All right, there was raining still at Epsom, but the sun shines on TV for Tom Collins here. James Millman hoping that your each-way nap, the fact that you've given us an each-way nap suggests that you weren't the most confident coming in today.
Not because I think Santa Barbara's probably the likely winner, though she may be a little bit too short. I just thought Dubai Fountain was very solid to be in the 3.
Price sensitive then with it all.
I was in agreement with Tom and Ziada, so the fact Tom's in cracking form, I probably shouldn't have changed my mind. There's still one. I can't be having it in a big field.
Paul Keeley said to me this morning, it's a terrible Oaks. And, and we were talking off air, Barry, weren't we? How do you know it's a good classic until the season has developed? But coming in, I suppose, you want the Group 1 winners and stuff. And the fact that Santa Barbara was gambled in like she was for the Guineas, they must have thought it was a terrible crop.
Yeah, well, obviously she was blowing everything away in Ballydoyle all spring. And when Aidan O'Brien, in a departure from his usual MO, he really talked her up ahead of the 1,000 guineas, and that's what sparked the gamble on her. He was saying nothing could live with this filly at home. She's really something special, and looking forward to all the Group 1s with her throughout the season, and going to be kicking off in Newmarket. And it was just such abusive praise for a horse that had only won a maiden up the Curragh. But I don't know whether that marks the rest of the fillies in Ballydoyle down as somewhat average and she's exceptional, or whether, she's just... I thought her run in the Guineas, on her first run, her first time travelling as a filly, as a young filly, I thought she handled everything admirably. I know she her head carriage looked a bit funny or that, but I just thought a horse came up size her and kind of maybe threw her a bit. I think it really would have improved her and matured her that race. And, not at the price, it readily opposable, I suppose, at the price, but if you factor into the price that it was only her second run and that she's going to improve for a step up and trip, I don't think the ground's going to be an issue for her either. I think she could take a bit of whacking in this. I think they're going to try to control the race from the front. I think you'll see the Ballydoyle horses, a couple of them go forward, and they'll steady it right up then, and they'll dictate whether they come up stand side or far side. The Ballydoyle runners will.
Let's face it, no one knows more about pedigrees than those guys for this particular meeting. And you look at Camelot, the sire, James. In fact, his top strike rate that I can see is 1.6 mile, actually. So, again, fairly young sire as well, isn't he?
They tend to be too slow, really. It's a slight problem with the Camelots. The Dragonet, the best one.
Oh!
Russian Camelot, Hunting Horn, Latrobe. They're good.
Irish St Leger type horses.
They lack a little bit of a turn of foot on occasion, but she doesn't seem to do that on what we've seen so far. Do you know why, Barry, she never did a trial? We just haven't had the one run. Why she never ran in a trial before the 1,000?
No, I don't, James. They just seemed quite keen just to get her straight to Newmarket. That was the start-off point. Aidan O'Brien was quoted as saying that he didn't want to run her in a trial because he knew it was going to be a long season for this filly, and they thought it was a good starting point for a Newmarket, as opposed to running her beforehand. Yeah. Then Newmarket's going to be her second race, then onto the Oaks, and maybe burn her out. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. It's probably a stupid thing to say at this stage, but if she was to win here, like, they could potentially see her ultimately could be joining one of her stable companions in something like the Arc in October. You know, that's the way they're thinking.
Well, 3-year-old fillies do have a great record in the Arc.
So got Love to come out, of course, last year's winner for them. But can't wait for Love to come out. Is she still the pin-up girl of the season? Potentially.
Just to wonder why she didn't run today in the Coronation.
Well, they considered it, didn't they? But they wanted not to start her over 1.4 miles on bad ground, I think. So that it will be the Princess Wales, won't it?
Yeah, she'll be back.
Fascinating addition to that.
We've not seen her for a fair while now. So.
She'd be favourite for that, I would imagine, wouldn't she?
She's on form from last year for sure. We are waiting a little while to see that return.
Okay, so they minded her. They didn't go to the Arc, did they? We know what happened in the Arc last year. No repeat of that, thank you very much. Santa Barbara's holding her position, Barry, as they come out onto the track, isn't she, I think? And the market obviously does like her a lot, which is, I think, when they have got one, the Ballydoyle battalion, especially with the gamble that they had in the Guineas, she could have easily drifted by now with what's happened on the track.
Yeah, she's 11-4, bang on 11-4, 3.75. Ziyada is 7.0, 8 Snowfall, Dubai Fountain 9.2, 14 Saffron Beach. A big drifter is Tiona, David Egan in the plate out to 14. That's been matched considerably shorter, 6.8. Can you believe, for a couple of £100? Tiona was matched for. Of the outsiders, Saving Forest. That's been put up by Kevin Blake on the Racing Only Better podcast. He napped that at 50-1, actually. Win and place. That's 48. Ocean Road is in there at 30. Willow into 23 now. So a few quid knocking around for that, having been 29.
There'll be loads of people that tore up their anti-post tickets after Willow got beaten on the seasonal debut. That if she wins, will be scrambling back through their portfolios to find out exactly.
Sure, but Lemon, I should say as well, is another one attracting some support into 25. That's been matched at a high of 42.
Right, topical, Barry. Lovely links, and we can get some viewer interaction about these horses. Then let's start off with Tiona, shall I? And Carol Ann. Is that 1971? I thought I was going to say 1871. Sherbet Lemon for Carol out there. Well, I must admit, James, when we saw the Lingfield trial, none of us thought that we'd be seriously giving her a chance, did we?
Well, she was 8 lengths behind Noon Star under a penalty at Weatherby, wasn't she, on her second start? And she got a very good ride from Paul Moreno. 84 was her rating going into the Lingfield Oaks trial. I think the rain has really played into her strengths, but still 14. It's still not ideal to be right on the other side of the track.
She's going to be well positioned though if they do come early.
Holly's going to be forward. Is she good enough? I think probably 5th or 6th.
Well, she's a big price, Carol, and she's coming in for money. So people are agreeing with you out there, and it is Holly Doyle on your side. Happy days indeed there. What about Tiona then? Let's have a look. Have we got any more coming on? Yes, we do. Okay, Nigel Codrington says, hey guys, I'm a bit worried about Tiona settling, but I absolutely love her. I think she'll be class and win. Well, Nigel, my initial impression, straight after the Musadora, was that Tiona was the one to take out of it. Spoke to Roger Varian about this filly. He also has Savor Forest, who Barry mentioned as well. Some good judges going for that one, Kev Blake, etc. And he said Savor Forest could surprise a few, but you knew Tiona was the one that he was a bit disappointed with the Musadora, I think.
I think the stalls is where she lost it.
She blew up in the prelims, didn't she? She wears a hood at home, and she works really, really well in it. She, of course, beat... she was second, wasn't she, to C Empress, of course.
Yeah, who won again.
First time up at Newcastle. Went back there and beat a very progressive horse next time out of Mark Johnson's, As She Liked. And they were a little bit disappointed in the Musadora. The hook goes on. A lot of it will be how she handles the prelims and getting down to the start.
I think I'd rather see her in a Ribblesdale than an Oaks. But she was 5-1 second favourite for the Oaks before that run at York. So, you know, if you fancied her before on the basis of her juvenile form and the potential to improve, then you've got to take the 12.
Seeing her go down
just
now.
don't know about the ground. How's she going down, James?
Yeah, not too bad. Santa Barbara, Ryan was at pains to take her down very, very steadily. Tiana's keen enough, but I think well within David Egan's
She's got
hands.
beautiful pedigree, Tiana, isn't she? She's by Sea the Stars out of an authorised mare that was a Group 1 winner herself.
Very good in these colours.
Ambivalent, yeah. Oh, yeah, for Rog, wasn't it? You know, real progressive type. And sometimes you get these horses, a bit like John Leaper tomorrow, who's got the best pedigree, certainly outside of the Ballydoyle. I was about to say battalion, but there's only one, of course. Yeah.
You know.
Contenders over this season. And who'd have thought that the best pedigree wouldn't be coming from Aidan O'Brien and Derby tomorrow? But John Leaper's the same. John Leaper also a little bit fizzy. You just don't know what you're going to get, do you, whatsoever? So David Egan will be at pains to ride her cold, Mishriff style ride from David, I think. But I don't like this scenario for her. Prominent races have been there. Getting behind on this ground. I know we've seen Blue Cup do it. The more you think about that Blue Cup success in the previous race, the more jiggy you're getting about that, aren't you?
Oh, he was a cut above that field. Thunder and Blue, I think, was rated 108 or something. I wouldn't be surprised if Blue Cup was...
Suggesting we're going to see him in the Jub Monte.
It wouldn't surprise me as he progresses. He's going to be, you know, he's in that mould. Munizio wouldn't get it wrong. He's very
wonderfully ambitious, David, isn't he? Absolutely.
But he knows what he's got, though. He's not just ambitious.
Very good trainer.
He's brilliant trainer. He's so good for the game as well. We love him in the studio, as he well knows. And, you know, the social side of the game, he just gets the game, David, isn't he? One of these new wave of trainers that means that racing is going to be in safe hands. And, of course, broke through at the top level. We're hoping that Wonderful Stars might come out this week, actually. We hope to get a word with David.
He's been quoted saying, look, Ark's a target. He doesn't want to run a
He was
particularly early
gutted
on.
they didn't run in it last year, wasn't he? Because everything would have been right. Of course, she won on that. That form, by the way, of her win in the... Oh, gosh, what was it she won at the Arc weekend?
Vermeil, was it?
It was the Vermeil. Well done, James. It was the Vermeil. That got a nice boost, didn't it? Because the Aga Khan filly came out the other day in France and won as well. So it looks good, but in Rabihar. So that's Wonderful Stars. We're really looking forward to her coming back out. Have we got some more socials out there? Any more viewer interaction? Oh, yes, we've got one about Ocean Road, who would be extremely topically named. And Eva Carty says, Australia is a super sire. Should we forget Ocean Road in a minor placing? If you like Sherbet Lemon, you're going to have to like her. It just all went wrong, didn't it, at Lingfield?
I think she's better than Sherbet Lemon.
I agree.
The race scenario might not suit her. Australia Superstar, he has been a little bit disappointing, really, so far with his horses. Order Australia, Broome, Sir Ron Priestley would be his leading trio. Aussie Gallo, Chrome as well. They've not, again, they're not quite quick enough in some of these good races. And Ocean Road, she's got to get out of those stalls quicker. That's the big issue for her, and she's drawn relatively low again, stall 2 this afternoon.
Well, Oisin Murphy will be fancying his chances of surprising a few after the Blue Cup ride last to first. Will he go for that rail? That's what it's all about. Let's get the next one on then. Thank you, Eva Carty, for that. Hugh Masson comes back on and says, don't like Santa Barbara's egg carriage when she won on debut. It's greenness, isn't it?
Possibly. She had her mouth wide open the whole way countering down to the start, and that suggests that she might not be entirely straightforward for Ryan during the race itself. She's carrying herself really, really nicely, but like I say, when a horse does
I
that,
think
it
there
means
was
you lose
talk
control
of
of the bit.
There was talk of them possibly putting on a cross noseband.
Yeah, I'm
on her,
slightly
but that doesn't
surprised
seem
watching
to be
that
the
she
case.
didn't have one, because a cross noseband effectively stops the horse from opening their mouths and just gives the rider a little bit more
It's keen
control.
horses that usually have cross noseband, right?
Keen ones that aren't particularly
Before the hood
concentrated.
came around, it was a cross noseband you'd look for in the paddock and go, that might be a bit keen.
Yeah, it is to give the rider a little bit more help. And just seeing it the whole way down, Ryan wanted to keep her down steady, nice and relaxed, but she was at her mouth wide open, which just makes life a little bit harder for the jockey and just suggests they're not completely 100% concentrating. And I'm interested that they thought about it, and just seeing her go down to the start, they might regret not having one on her.
I mean, we have had enough time to talk about this race, an in-depth preview or what you've had out there. Great that you're joining us for this as well. We've got one more social before we talk about the horse that we've not talked about in the race yet so far. Do you know which one it is? Okay, let's find out after Carol Ann comes back and says, good luck, everyone. So looking forward to this. Yes, absolutely. Let's ramp it up, Carol Ann. You're quite right. A divine social message there from Carolyn. Divinely is the only horse that we've not mentioned so far. You know what happens on this show. If we don't mention one, egg on face afterwards, it goes and wins or runs a blinder. Tom Segal has put up Shamie Heffernan, Aidan O'Brien, one of the 5 that he's got Divinely. TC, why?
I don't know. I couldn't have her. I literally couldn't have her at all. But I guess it was an improved run on her comeback. She showed last year that she won a Group 3 on heavy ground, so maybe the testing conditions will suit. But that Lingfield form, just to me,
we've slated it a little bit.
Yeah.
How does she reverse it with Sherbet Lemon? Absolutely,
the top 3.
Yeah.
Tom thinks he's seen something. When Tom sniffs one of these Ballydoll outsiders, we often know what happens.
It wouldn't be a surprise though if there is a shock in this race, because as you mentioned, Paul Keeley didn't think it was very good Oaks. I don't think it's very good Oaks. If you look back at the last 10 years, you have to achieve an RPR of 115 roughly to win the Oaks. Now in this race, there's only 4 horses that are rated over 100 so far, so they're all below par at this stage. A horse needs to take a step forward. Santa Barbara is obviously the only horse without a mark at this current point after just 2 runs, but this is there for an upset. An upset wouldn't actually be an upset, if you know what I mean. The protagonists aren't necessarily that strong though. Look at the money for Dubai Fountain.
They've literally followed me in after a bad day. They probably shouldn't have.
They're thinking every dog has his day. We'll save the best for the last.
Exactly, let's hope so.
Yeah, okay. So that each way money has been taken. Yeah, Barry, Dubai Fountain hardening up all the time as they amble down at the start before the Oaks.
Yeah, the favourites sliding out from 3.58 to 4.0, so 5 to 2, 8 to 3 to 1. Dubai Fountain into 5.6 now. Zayada 7.8, 7.6 Snowfall. Saffron Beach steady at 13. Tiona 8 to 15. Divinely 24 from 28, and it's Willow 29, 32 Ocean Road.
So she's threatening to go above 3's Santa Barbara, isn't she? But cool wind in her hair. They're expecting punters at this point. Not put off whatsoever. All right then, Aidan O'Brien, we can see.
I was going to say he was off his phone, but straight away back on to...
Just when you thought Aidan was getting on. Who does he speak to? It's been one of the great mysteries in racing straight after. It's got to be the lads, isn't it?
I don't know.
His father and his mother.
Is that who it is? That's Bonafide, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Like Barry knows it like it's normal. I wasn't so sure. I was thinking, sorry, boss, Yeah.
No, the first people who call him or he calls is always his mother and father.
Okay, fair enough. There you go then. That's what you get. Answered here on the show. I always thought it might be Michael Table. Sorry, Michael. I know I told you to take the 33s into 9 and 4 about Santa Barbara and it's all gone wrong. I'll get sacked one of these days, he's thinking. The Suns are taking me over and all that
the
sort of
Suns
stuff.
on either side, both Donica and Joseph doing very well.
Yeah, there has been no better training in my time of flat all jumps.
Oh, it's the Rocky era. Theatre world.
He was the trainer that when I really got into it, that was just absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, it's so great that he just seems still so young and has got so much life in him, Aidan, doesn't he? He still talks brilliantly to the media. I don't know, he's done it all. Could do with the French Derby winner, though, however, couldn't he? St Mark's Basilica. Is he the best 3-year-old colt, by the way? Someone suggested that to me the other day.
I don't think so. I think he's very ground dependent, St Mark's Basilica.
He's the slop.
Yeah, I think he needs heavy ground.
Heavy ground?
Yeah, I think to be seen at his best. I think he obviously handles quicker conditions, but
runs in the French Derby and gets it.
Yeah,
of course. After his
looks like
superb
threatening clouds over Epsom again, doesn't it?
Yeah, très soup at Epsom as well. It's supposed to be dry tomorrow, Barry, but there's going to be dig underfoot, isn't there? No doubt, and perhaps that's why Bolshoi Ballet, you told us, was on the slide as they start to go in.
Sorry, Dave.
Bolshoi Ballet, is he going to be a real negative tomorrow, do you think?
Yeah, it looks that way at the moment. He's out to 6 to 4 in the sportsbook, but he's over 2 to 1 on the exchange now. 3.10, 6-2, Max Swinney, 8-8. Hurricane Lane, that's coming in for good support now as well. 9-8 Mohaffet. He's one that wants it like the road, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's going to be drifting all day tomorrow.
Agus is cursing the weather gods out there. Absolutely right. I like Hurricane Lane, the Dante winner. All right, then. Enough about the Derby. It is the Oaks time. They're all in, I believe. Good luck wherever you're playing. Who am I going to call in the lead? Off and running then. We do go. And there's a real battle on an Ocean Road. Not the best away again. Santa Barbara anchored right out the back, conserving stamina already. Ryan Moore. Who takes it up? Sherbet Lemon then. A lot of you out there giving this Lingfield winner a chance right up there with Dubai Fountain on the inside. Santa Barbara, in fact, the back marker of all. Looking for a couple of others. La Joconde is up there as well. Mystery Angel, ever so tough. She's up there as we expected. Saffron Beach, Adam Kirby not too worried about the stamina there. Save a Forest at the back. Ziada, TC, let's bring you in. Quite a nice position to my eye on the inside.
I couldn't have gone any better. Exactly as planned. Mystery Angel went straight to the front. Ocean Road missed the start. Jim Crowley was able just to track across right next to a stable companion in Tiona, given plenty of space against the inside rail.
Let's look at Tiona then, James. She's settled all right, hasn't she, I think?
Yeah, she's not got a bad position. Dubai Fountain, she was actually much keener than I wanted her to be, leaving the gate. She's in about 4th or 5th. Adam Kirby, if she stays, Saffron Beach is in a lovely position.
Divinely being held up at the back. Thought she might be a pace angle. It is indeed La Joconde and William Buick that's helping to keep this pace honest up front. What sort of pace are they going, TC? Solid enough.
Yeah, I don't think they're going too hard. I mean, if Santa Barbara wins from there, she's a very good filly.
We're about to find out then. Okay, we're on about halfway stage, just over, aren't we? And it's all nice steadying. It's slightly Mystery Angel up front.
Hard to
of Ben
believe she's
Curtis.
only 3. Hard to believe Santa Barbara's only trading at 3-1,
Last
considering
place.
her position.
She is travelling well within herself.
Huge confidence. She's going to need to do a blue cup then as we get ready to go into Tattenham Corner. I'll tell you what, Saffron Beach's got a lovely technique there as well. Looking for Snowfall. I thought she'd be up there a little bit more. They're conserving the stamina today. Frankie Dettori, she's settled well. Tiona, got to have a big say to find out about. Save a Forest, perhaps starting to fill the beach. La Joconde, I think we can see that. Who's that? Willow off the bridle then. All right then, we're turning in. TC, call it.
Well, it looks like they're going down the middle. They're going down the middle or coming near side.
They're going to come stand side. Ben Curtis wants this rail. Saffron Beach off the bridle. Snowfall absolutely cruising for Frankie Dettori. Santa Barbara got the target on the back. Ziada right down the middle. Ocean Road not done with. Oshie Murphy
Santa
fancies
Barbara
his time.
gets a huge split.
Look at the split there. Look at Frankie Dettori, desperate for that rail. He is absolutely cruising. Here comes Santa Barbara. I'll tell you what, Snowfall. Here comes Frankie Dettori. He's looking around. Is this going to be the Musadora winner? Whoosh! She goes clear. Go on the Snowfall. This is great. It's going to be a Ballydor 1-2, maybe 3. Santa Barbara not quite getting home. Mystery Angel running an incredible race in second. But this is all over. Snowfall. Wow. An absolutely love-like performance. I said beforehand, will she be the new Peeping Fawn? We have got a poster girl. James Millman, what did you make of that?
Absolutely bolted up, isn't she? Frankie Dettori, fair play, he's done it again, and Ryan's going to be a little bit gutted. He's on completely and utterly the wrong one.
Well, look, now it's happened 2 times in a classic, hasn't it? Barry, let's come to you then. Story of the market. She was cruising as she came off the home straight bend. He was looking for that rail. He soon got it.
Yeah, she hit a high of 9.2. Betfair SP is 7.5. There's no real in-running story. She absolutely slooshed in. Would you believe Santa Barbara hit a low of 2.02?
She travelled well around Tattenham Corner, Santa Barbara, but did not pick up at all this afternoon. I was watching
she never
her.
travelled like an even money chance for me now, I have to say, James.
I don't see when that happened, yeah.
Mystery Angel, who have been richly rewarded by... they had to supplement her, didn't they? 5.6 a low she hit, Mystery Angel, but no real big in-running news there. Just waiting for a quote to come in to see where she goes next.
You have to wonder whether it's actually soft ground then, because Mystery Angel does love soft ground. She's had that rail. We'll talk about the form quickly after this, but TC, Snowfall, Frankie Dettori once again.
What an effort. That is an unbelievable effort. That's got to be one of the most impressive Oaks victories we've ever seen, if not the most impressive. She's drawn clear. Yes, it wasn't a great field on paper and on ratings, but she has blown them away. Frankie didn't even use the whip once. She's basically in the mould of love, is she not?
Oh, well, it's a love-like performance, James, isn't it? Yeah. How much does the rail count here? You've got to downgrade her slightly because
right
of the rail,
across
I
the
think.
rail. You see Mystery Angel, she's got there first. That's a big help for her. A bit of scrimmaging in behind. Frankie squeezed through quite nice. Santa Barbara's actually followed Snowfall through. She hasn't seen out the trip anyway. She's got very tired inside the final 2. Those that went up middle of the track.
Divinely stayed on nicely.
I thought she'd be more prominent because, of course, everyone thought she stole the Musadora. Great to see the Musadora getting another winner of the Oaks, by the way. But this time, rider with more confidence, they say. And he was able to just get across. Ryan thought he had the target, didn't he?
Frankie could have been 8 lengths off the back of the field and still won. Like it didn't really matter where she was ridden. To be honest, she was a cut above. It's mental that Santa Barbara has been considered this amazing filly, right? And if she's blowing them away at home, why is she performing so disappointingly?
She wants to drop back in trip, James, doesn't she? Mile 2.
But I imagine she works with Snowfall,
Even a mile, probably drop back to a mile because she's in the end. she's hit the 2-pole and she's well beat.
Yeah.
They're just getting further and further clear, Frankie and Snowfall.
Just Divinely in third, and Savour Forest running on best of the Roger Varian trio, wasn't it? I'll tell you what a great moment. Frankie Dettori, echoes of Kasia all those time ago in the colours of the Boys of Blue Godolphin, got the rail, splattered in mud. This is going to be the headlines. Frankie in the Derby tomorrow?
Not sure about John Leaper, but...
It is John Leaper, isn't it?
He has the potential to win the Derby, but he's got plenty to prove.
Wow. OK, fantastic scenes. Aidan O'Brien takes out another classic with, dare we say it, another second string. Frankie Dettori. Barry, it's been a great day. You'll be back with us tomorrow.
Yeah, I certainly will. Just off the back of that, Snowfall 5 from 20 for the Eclipse and 7 from 20 for the Arc.
I think the Arc will be the target.
But this is clearly the number one now.
Absolutely. We saw with Peeping Fawn, it took her 7 goes to win a Group 1. She was unbeatable, literally, when she hit top. I tell you, Frankie's absolutely loving it. Around about 7 or 8 to 1 then for the Arc. That could look big, couldn't it, in October? James Millman, thanks for joining us.
It's been a
frustrating day punting-wise, but great to have your pearls.
Yeah, no, it's been good. I think the rain has certainly made it a bit more difficult for a few people, but I think Ryan Moore is going to be more disappointed than I will be leaving today.
Well, indeed, you said that with a bit of a smoke. And we'll see you for Royal Ascot week, right?
Yes, back for a couple of days at Royal Ascot. Looking forward to it.
Can't wait, James. TC, thanks so much. Radar's been on fire. Ziada a bit disappointing, but it's been a great day.
Yeah, been a great day. 3 good winners. Ziada disappointed. She travelled nicely, but didn't seem to stay the trip or didn't handle the ground. Yeah, looking forward to tomorrow. Huge day of racing at Epsom, Derby. We've got the Belmont Stakes over in New York, the best card in the US, aside from the Breeders' Cup with 7
Punting Club launches tonight, right, on the app?
Second edition of the Punting Club, I believe, on the app at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. tonight.
Whatever TC tips, you're going to want to be with it. This time tomorrow, then, don't go anywhere. Join us again here on RP Live.